At Kroger, fresh groceries are our thing, so we check your delivery order for freshness at every step from farm to store and pick and pack every veggie in your free pickup order with care, because we treat your food the way we'd want ours to be treated. We're fresh every day, so shop anyway. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Free pickup on orders of $35 or more. Restrictions may apply.
Get more ways to save at the Buy 5 or More Save $1 each sale. Just buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Saber Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jim Donovan here with the stat man, Chris Samsa. On today's show, we'll review the first 3 nights of the 2022 New Japan Cup and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/social suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and share plus synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Like I said in the intro, here with Chris Samsa, he's filling in for the young boy this week. Unfortunately, young boy had a couple losses in the family this past week, so keep him in your thoughts and prayers this week. But very grateful for Chris for 2 weeks in a row coming on and stepping in.
We call that a streak, Jeremy. Here we go. I'm channeling my inner Josh. I am not in my typical studio space. I'm coming to you from my kitchen, so I'll be sure to not mute my microphone as I wander around my home, and I will open many cans of liquid death while unmuted, and I will create lots of miscellaneous plosives. So that's an honor of Josh, but I'm happy to be here. I'm glad to sub in as always, and we got some New Japan Cup to talk about, so let's just keep it going.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Last week at the end of the show, you're like, I don't care what you recommending match you guys watch or not, because I'm not going to be here. Well, joke's on you. You're here.
Here I am. Yeah, I actually had to think back. Like when you asked me to do this, late yesterday, I was like, shoot, now I got to watch that match, which was not a problem because, well, there's been a lot of really good wrestling over the past 3 days or so, and
yeah,
what's one more match?
Yeah, I was in Orlando. We got an Airbnb with some social suplex guys. There was like 6 or 7 of us in one house, and we went to Rampage, Revolution, and in between that, literally all we did all day was watch wrestling between New Japan and Noah and Stardom and All Japan. Like we were sort of running through everything. It was insane.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, how was Revolution live? It seemed like the crowd got a little tired towards the tail end. There was a lot of good stuff on that show.
Yeah, it was an awesome show. So glad I went. Yeah, great show to watch live. But yeah, I do think overall, it was really hot in there. like Rampage felt great because, you know, it was a smaller crowd for Rampage. It was probably like 3,000, 4,000 for Rampage. People were spread out. It was a little bit cooler in there. But then Revolution, it was jam-packed to the gills. I mean, there was an empty seat in the house. So it was really hot. And, yeah, people were getting tired towards the end. I think the dog collar match took a lot out of people just emotionally and excited. So then Britt and Thunder came on. And, yeah, people, you know, were there cheering for Britt and Thunder. But, I mean, the match wasn't all that. And then people were tired from the dog collar match. And we saw a ton of great wrestling. But, you know, by the time the main event came around, I felt like people were kind of back on it and really enjoyed that matchup as well. So
yeah, no big New Japan stuff on the Revolution show, right? Nothing really affecting things there.
No Jay White appearance. I know people were really speculating that with the whole, you know, trying to appease Cole and the Bucks that he might pop up and help either the Bucks or Cole, but yeah, he wasn't nowhere to be found.
Yeah, well, Jay White's appearance in AEW continues to just be Tony Khan making sure that he's compliant with his own rules, I guess. So yeah, but it was a good show. And then, you know, shortly thereafter, we had another good show with a great main event with Yoshi and Shingo. So tons of good wrestling. There's some good New Japan stuff on the horizon too. So, yeah, the wrestling is good. And, you know, WrestleMania, right? I mean, it's coming.
Yeah, you know.
That's a thing people seem to like.
Stone Cold, Kevin Owens talk show. Can't wait to, you know, log on to Peacock to watch that.
Log on to the cock. Yes. Yeah. No, there might be some good stuff on WrestleMania.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
There'll be something on WrestleMania. Something will happen.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into this New Japan Cup, man. We had the first 3 nights this past week, so we'll start at the beginning here. Night 1, we had all tournament matchups on this night, full card of 8 singles matches. So let's go through them real quickly, talk about the results, anything that we liked about these matchups here. So night 1 kicked off with Ashima representing Glate and the Strong Hearts, who's accompanied with, of course, Lindemann and T-Hawk, and they defeated Takamichi. He defeated Takamichi Nuku in 9 minutes and 48 seconds.
I love seeing Shima in New Japan. I think that this is a really interesting path for him. So. And I think the match was fun with Taka. You know, I expected Shima to win. I think they're going to treat Shima like an outsider star, you know, in some ways at least, and maybe in a big way, which I think we'll talk about as we go through the rest of the tournament and what that looks like. But this was a good showing, and like the Strong Hearts are over. Like people like them, they react to them when they come through. I think there's something there. Like, I don't know that they're there permanently, if they're always going to be this kind of outsider-ish group. But this was a fun match, a great way to kick off the tournament. And yeah, I like to see the outsider plus I don't know, what is Taka an outsider? He's like an outsider insider at this point.
I think he's kind of back in now, back in the fold.
Yeah, right. Seems like he's just a full timer now. So, but you know, good to see him in a singles match for the first time in a pretty long time in New Japan. So, yeah, this was fun overall. Like, and just right off the bat, I want to say I love shows that are just all tournament matches. Like, It takes me back to these 2012, 2013 or whatever G1 matches that are just like 10 G1 tournament matches, just like people going nuts, like just big shows, fewer big shows, which was the strategy back then. And this was a really fun way to kick off the tournament with 8 big, you know, first round matches. So, but yeah, love to see Shima. Curious where we're headed. I've got my eye on him as we progress here for the next couple of matches.
Yeah, it's a really fun matchup. Like you mentioned, you know, with Shima kind of being treated as that top outsider, you think back to guys like Marufuji when they did runs in like G1 and stuff like that. He's being protected so far. Like, yeah, there is an excitement with him, and the Strong Hearts is there. And, you know, Taka, he's rocking the blue. And, you know, when he busts out the blue, he's going to be serious Taka. And, yeah, fun little, you know, sub 10-minute match here, almost 10 minutes, and good little back and forth sequence. Shima picking up the win with the Meteora, and he's just so lightning fast even for his age. And like you mentioned, with them, you know, being so popular, you know, those guys have literally pretty much been in every promotion in Japan at some point. So no matter what city or what part of Japan you are, you've probably seen the Strong Hearts at some point, and they're super entertaining, super charismatic, and just they're great wrestlers. So, and people have been complaining that there was no outsiders. So Shima's like that one, like shining, hope here in this tournament for something different, and got that so far here with Taka. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how deep he gets in the tournament.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that, I mean, New Japan has always thrived on bringing in outside talent for, I guess, I don't want to say like one shots, but like longer term runs, if that makes any sense, right? Like even if you look at Moxley, right? Like Moxley, his when he came in and then did the G1, like that was one big block of Moxley, and now he just kind of dips his toe in as he gets the opportunity to, or hopefully he will soon again. And like that's where New Japan always has gotten some better energy or some new energy, and this is kind of a version of that, just kind of domestically. Yeah. So I would like to see this happen more, but I know that the relationships with a bunch of different promotions in Japan are complicated, to say the least. So
right, and also we don't know what's going to happen with GLEAT. I mean, they're not sure, bringing in big money. I don't know exactly their financials and who's backing them, but I mean, at some point, like, I don't know how sustainable GLEAT is going to be, and so that might be a situation where Strong Hearts now, they got their toes in New Japan, they're familiar. GLEAT goes down, and Obari's like, hey, come on in.
Right, they've diversified, right? Yeah. So, and good on them. I mean, like, they're some of the last true freelancers in Japan at a high level, at least, that you see bounce around a lot. And I think that that's an interesting role in the, pro wrestling lexicon of Japan. So it is cool to see. But yeah, I mean, I looked at this tournament, and my biggest question mark still is Shima. So, and how we proceed going forward. Does he get the Marufuji treatment and win and knock out Okada, right? As we go through, because that's the path he could be on. So that's the big burning question for me. I think if I had a choice, and I think we talked about it last week, like I thought that was maybe the way to go. And I still think that after seeing the crowd reaction to him for this night one match.
Yeah. So then following that, we had Hoshi defeating Tomiyokohanma 9 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yep. I mean, it happened. There's not much to say about that. I mean, Hanma looks good, to be honest. He looks fit for a man who can hardly move his head. But and Yoshihashi, he's got a little swagger in him right now with the IWGP Tag Championships. He's come into his own, and we've talked about that at length every time I'm on the show. Like he's a player, right? He's a great mid-card guy now. So, obviously we expected Yoshihashi to take the win here, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and again, another good little matchup here. Also, kind of a similar story of, Hanma going for the Kokeshi and trying to fight until he can finally get that. And I think towards the end here, Hanma was on a little bit of a run, going for and then he went for like the Rocket Kokeshi. That's when Yoshihashi moved and kind of got back in control, and then ended up hitting the karma on him. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I think that was the finish.
Yeah, so yeah, he hit the karma on him. Yeah, because it was a nasty. I remember it being nasty because I'm always worried about Hanma's neck, and yeah, he dropped him like right on his head with that karma.
So Hanma takes a lot of like Last of the Dragon and Made in Japan and Karma, which are pretty much the same move, right? Like he takes a lot of those like pick me up, spin me over, and land me on my
head.
Head moves, and it doesn't really make any sense to me. And I know he lands on his shoulders and back. Like I understand, like I guess the physics or the the movement of it all, but like you still gotta wonder, right? Like,
right.
Why is he always the guy? Or he takes the package pile driver from Chase all the time.
Yeah,
like and maybe it's just notable because it's recognizable when Hanma takes it because you're like, oh god.
Yeah.
But like,
especially like the Last of the Dragon, like because that thing, like, Shingo just drills people with that thing, and like it's crazy.
I mean, we saw it this weekend, right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, there was a brutal one. Yeah. So it's almost like he just likes playing with fire. I'm good on him. He's got to keep getting paid somehow, and that's the way, I guess. Get kind of dropped on your head when you had a broken neck.
Yeah. I got a question here from the Dark Soldier. He says, we know Hanma isn't the wrestler he once was, but when he returned in 2018, why was his return match in an untelevised show and they did no big angle or anything with him when he came back? I still feel there's a place for Great Bash heel in NJPW. What say you?
Yeah, I think there's still a place for a Great Bash heel in some way, but Hanma is so connected with, I guess, that generation that I don't think you were going to do a big return situation for him. And honestly, they probably didn't know what they had or what his physical condition was going to end up being.
If I remember, I thought wasn't he like in the main event of his, didn't he like team with like Tanahashi and a bunch of like Hantai guys when he came back?
God, I don't remember, to be honest. But I do remember the untelevised thing being something questionable, at least.
Yeah.
But my thought was always that I just didn't think they knew what he had, or if he wanted to like ease his way back in, or that he was always gonna fall into this particular role, and they didn't want to make a big deal out of him coming back.
Right. And I mean, and they've used him, I think, well over last year or so, last couple of years since he's been back, and he's also that kind of lower card kind of utility guy that can get you a good match here and there, and just be a guy to team with the Lions and be an open match guy.
Yeah, but he's got good energy, right? And he's a showman in his own way, and people seem to like to see him, even more so than some of the other guys. I mean, I think he's got more, he like almost teeters to comedy, but it's still not comedy, I guess, if that makes sense. So it's a little more lighthearted. It's not like Nagata or Makabe or some of those other guys that are coming out and they're still trying to play it super serious. Like Hanma's the guy who can kind of play both sides of that coin, which I think is a good role, right?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely plays for Great Bash heel, but yeah, I don't see that becoming like a new like hot faction and adding people at this point.
I mean, maybe another Never Trios run someday.
Yeah. So following this matchup, we had Hiroki Goto defeating Blue Justice Yuji Nagata 12 minutes and 37 seconds.
Please put some respect on Mr. New Japan Cup, Hiroki Goto.
The G in New Japan Cup stands for Goto. The G is silent.
New Japan.
Yes.
I mean, that Goto, being like kind of Mr. New Japan Cup, right? He's got 24 New Japan Cup victories now, which is the most all time. He's got the most New Japan Cup matches all time. Like, that is so Goto, right? To like, and of course he's had like great G1 runs and all that stuff too, but like to really have made his name in truly obviously the second heavyweight tournament of the year, the secondary heavyweight tournament of the year, like that's so Goto. Like, and that should be a shirt in its own way. That's so Goto. Just with a picture of the New Japan Cup. But yeah, I mean, he's the guy, man. He's been in so many of these things. He's won 3 times. You had to know he was probably going to beat Nagata here, though this was an upset possibility. You can't put it past them to give Nagata a 1 or 2 match run here, but Goto with the win, moves right on. Good match though. I mean, 12 minutes or so, 12 and a half.
Yeah.
No issue. Well worked. Nothing egregious. Enjoyable.
Yeah, for me, I would say this match wasn't as hard hitting as I thought it was going to be, because Goto usually is like kind of that striker never style until it's Nagata. So again, it good, like you mentioned, good matchup, nothing wrong. Nice little 3-star, 3.25 style matchup here, but Nagata's had some bangers recently, and I was thinking maybe a little bit hard hitting, a little bit more intense, but they were in and out in their 12 minutes, and Goto gets the win, and now Nagata will hop on a plane and head to the U.S. for some Mania weekend stuff, I believe.
Yes, I think he is booked for some U.S. stuff, including Windy City Riot, maybe? I think he's all on Windy City. That.
Yeah.
So I think he's in for the kind of WrestleMania weekend through Windy City Riot run.
Yeah. Then following that, we had from the United Empire, Jeff Cobb. He defeats Togi Makabe 8 minutes and 10 seconds.
I was just glad to see Cobb looks healthy. Looks like he's ready to go, make a run through the tournament. In the Sport of Pro Wrestling Bracket Challenge, more people picked Jeff Cobb to win the tournament than anybody else. So that's cool. And he is very clear on Twitter that he's going to win the tournament. So,
well, I mean, yeah, he had the big quote tweet from you, and he was very, very clear that he's winning this thing. And I think everybody, didn't want any smoke with him, and so went with him to win.
Listen, I'm not here to tell Jeff Cobb he's wrong. He's a very big man.
Yeah.
So the man, and to be perfectly honest, he might win the tournament.
Yeah,
he's got a shot.
He easily
right?
could. Yeah. They did a great job heating him up last year, and they can continue that momentum here. This matchup just really dominated Makabe throughout. We all joke about Makabe not taking bumps, but he did not have a choice on this night. Cobb was throwing this man around.
Tough to get through a singles match without taking a fall, or a bump even. So Makabe didn't take much of this though. They didn't mess around. 8 minutes is pretty short. So I would have liked to see this be a little bit more of a back and forth, some vintage Makabe. But that's not what we got. But I think it's probably for the best that if Cobb's going to be a player towards the tail end of this tournament, that he just looks like a beast, kind of like he did at the beginning through his whole 8-match winning streak in the G1. So,
right.
But good to see him healthy after the leg issue, getting back in there. He looks strong as ever. So no complaints here. It was another solid match. Two beefy boys,
Yeah, big meaty men slapping meat. Cobb was doing most of the slapping here. Ended off with the tour of the islands, puts Makabe away, and then advances to the next round. So then following that, we had Tai Chi defeating Toriano 6 minutes and 25 seconds.
Yeah, so Yano, this was his first round loss in, gosh, where did I see that? Since 2014. So he had made it into the second round of the New Japan Cup, 6 or 7 years running now, and then finally gets that first round loss from Tai Chi. So I guess this was actually, I think, the closest in the bracket challenge. I think something like 68% of people picked Tai Chi, and then so that left 32 for Yano, which was actually the closest spread in the first round, which kind of speaks to how kind of chalk the first round is gone. But you just had a couple of pick'ems in the first round, and this kind of was one of them. But speaking for, I guess, mostly English speaking fans, they love themselves some Toriano. So no surprise that there was a little bit of bias there, but the match was pretty much exactly what you would imagine from Tai Chi and Toriano. But the result was a little bit in question, though. I had a feeling we were going to see Tai Chi move on, even though these stats worked against that.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of your typical Yano match. The whole kind of story here, like he pulled a tarp out at one point in the match, and he was trying to put the tarp over Tai Chi, but then Miho Abe was kind of a shield there for Tai Chi, and then Tai Chi put the tarp on Yano, almost getting a near count out because he couldn't see where he was going, but he finally somehow magically found the ring at 19 and hopped back in there. And then it was pretty much all, Tai Chi from there. The ref ended up getting the tarp over him. Tai Chi hit a low blow during that point. The ref finally gets that off, and then Tai Chi is eventually able to get the pin here on Yano after running him into the exposed turnbuckle, and he hit the sumo forearm to get the win. So,
yeah.
Quick little matchup.
Tai Chi moves on. Yeah, it was a fine thing.
Yep. So then after that matchup, we move on to the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. He defeats Yo 16 minutes and 50 seconds. And I've been seeing a lot of mixed reviews on this matchup. I've seen some people going, 4 stars, 4.25, saying a really great matchup. I've seen some other people kind of at the lower end just saying, kind of as a 3-star affair. What do you think about this matchup, Chris?
I thought it was really nice of them to finally let Yo wrestle, right? He's been so attached to Sho, and it gets so messy. It's this whole thing with House of Torture and all that. It was nice to see Yo just get in there and have a match with, someone capable like that. That's not going to end up being messy. Even Yo's Best of the Super Juniors final got all messed up with Sho coming in and doing whatever the hell he did during that match, and that got all messy too. So this was, in that way, this was a really good match. It's good to see that Yo can still go. We just haven't really seen that. because he's been so connected with that House of Torture and Chaos feud. So I thought looked really good. Obviously, it would have been really surprising had he beat Hiroshi Tanahashi. I don't think this was something that I'll remember in 3 months, but I like that it happened, if that means anything. Like, I don't do stars, but that puts it kind of like high threes, I guess, if I were to do it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was a little bit under low. I was kind of in that same range, kind of like 3.25. I agree with you. I thought it was great that Yo was in there with somebody besides a House of Torture guy. I mean, if I look good with Tanahashi, I guess for me, it's like I was like 100% certain that there's no way Yo is beating Tanahashi. I've kind of been down on Yo, not really invested in him. So I was kind of waiting for Tanahashi to put this guy away as soon as possible. But this was a good back and forth 16-minute match. A lot of great exchanges. Yo kind of trying to do the Dragon Screw thing on the master of the Dragon Screw, Tanahashi. It's a lot of good back and forth, a lot of good suplex stuff back and forth. And but I never really felt like Tanahashi was in any real danger. Anytime Yo was in control, I felt like Tanahashi kind of quickly got back on the horse and got back in control. So the end of the match, Tanahashi, he lands the Dragon Suplex to pin Yo and get the win. So good matchup.
Oh, that's right. He ended it with the Dragons. That was kind of a surprising finish.
Yeah, I feel like every once in a while, if a guy where Tanahashi knows he can kind of beat, he kind of busts out the Dragon Suplex just to show, like, all right, that's kind of like the move he uses to beat the lower guys, and then high fly flows for the big boys.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, I like when wrestlers have multiple finishes or multiple things they can go to justifiably end a match. And Tanahashi has, why am I blanking on the submission too?
The Texas Clover Hold.
Texas Cloverleaf, or Clover Hold. Yeah, Tanahashi Cloverleaf.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that he doesn't always have to go to the high fly flow, and some of that's a little bit of preservation, I'm sure.
Right, because he's been doing a lot of high fly flows, especially to the outside, and all I can think about is my dad's a heel wrestler and the cockroach mask, and his knees falling apart in the movie. Like, it's almost like a real life happening in the movie. We're starting to see it now, and I'm always worried like it's gonna be one wrong high fly flow and he's gonna be done.
Yeah, I mean, somehow he's figured out how to land that thing and not just ruin himself, because he still looks good. But yeah, it was nice. It's nice to see a different finish, especially in the first round of a tournament against a junior, right? Like,
right.
You don't necessarily need to. You can build him up. You can build up Yo in the match, which I think they did in a couple of ways. But you don't have to. You don't have to give him the big stuff. So we'll see that hopefully soon in the tournament as he advances up against some of these other big boys.
Yeah. So we move on to the semi-main event of the evening. Tatsuya Naito defeats his former tag team partner Yujiro Takahashi 18 minutes and 11 seconds.
This was the match I was hoping for, or I was looking forward to the most in the G1 when the G1 was announced. Like, we finally saw, like, hey, we're going to see Naito Yujiro for the first time since 2014, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So and they have this long storied history, and then it just ends. Right? They from 2006 to 2014, they're just like connected, whether they were, in a tag team together or wrestling each other in a bunch of singles matches as young lions, and then out of their young lion days, and then never open weight championship matches and IWGP junior heavyweight tournament matches and all that, like so many different scenarios. And then we finally got them in 2022 as heavyweights. And this was fine. And I thought this was better than I thought it was going to be. And then they kind of did the House of Torture stuff a little bit less terrible, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting, kind of the story at the beginning part of the match was Yujiro wanted to wrestle clean. Like, he wasn't really cheating, and it was almost kind of similar to G1 a little bit, where he's wrestling more straight up and trying to have a good match and trying to prove that, he can win on his own merit. And then, of course, we get the ref bump. And it was a little bit different of an approach that we saw, because those Sho and Evil and, Dick Togo came out, and Yujiro was like, no, I don't want you guys, doing this. I want to do it on my own. And the crowd's kind of clapping, and it's like, oh, it's a big moment. Like, oh, wow, Yujiro's kind of standing up for himself, and we're going to get a clean matchup. And then they get out the ring, and then bow, it's Naito with the low blow, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, but the low blow is very kind of, it's more old school Bullet Club, right? I think
Right.
it felt more like that than like the interference thing
Right.
that was like, you know. So
I mean, I did kind of laugh at that because it was, to me, it was kind of funny. It was like, all right, yeah, he's gonna play it straight, and then bam, he just has that kind of cheesy like grin on his face, like I worked him.
his Yujiro smile, right?
Yeah.
Like, but with all the questions surrounding Bullet Club, you had to think I kind of bought it, right? I had that moment where I was like, oh, Yujiro, like who aligns with who, right? And that's the big thing with Bullet Club right now is like, you've got House of Torture, you've got the OGs, you've got Bullet Club Hollywood, I guess, right? Like, so who's all aligned with who? And like, until I guess they're all in the same building, and which I hope is sometime soon, like we're not going to know that, but we're still going to, I think, see some of these things peppered into this Bullet Club story where you maybe think somebody's not aligned with someone who they've been aligned with. So could Yujiro bail on Evil? Sure, right? Like that could definitely happen. So it depends how far they want to go with that story, but yeah, so that's kind of one of those things that's like up in the air. So you're kind of like, well, maybe he does want to do it on his own, and like sometimes the Bullet Club guys try to do that, but ultimately Naito still gets the win as expected, in a match that was more worth your time than you would think on paper, I suppose.
Yeah. After Yujiro's low blow, he goes for his walking stick and tries to hit Naito with that, but Naito ducks, and he gets a low blow of his own, kicks Yujiro right in the nuts, and then
right in the nuts
does his jackknife pin to get the win. Then post-match, we had Evil hit the ring to beat down on Naito. But then he did like a pop-up low blow to Evil, which was just hilarious watching that. We were all dying. We were all watching that in the house this weekend. So Naito escapes the House of Torture, gets the win, and moves on to the next round. And then that brings us to, actually, we had a question here from Dark Soldier. He says, if Yujiro were to appear in an AEW show or show in America in general, would the crowd chant, "We want Peter"?
Maybe a crowd in Orlando.
I mean, I'm sure the diehard fans might cheer that. I'm not sure how over Peter is with the the casual New Japan fans who only watch the big shows.
I also don't know that a fan of AEW would need Peter for their viewing pleasure when there's plenty of others there to oogle.
So let's talk about the main event here of night one. We had the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. He defeated the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, El Desperado, 26 minutes and 21 seconds.
Great as expected. El Desperado looks great against heavyweights. Almost always, he pulls out the big game, but kind of a chalk finish as you kind of could expect. But listen, Desperado is great. We all know that. We talk about it here every time I'm on the show, and I hear you guys talk about it all the time when I'm not on the show. And a lot of people that pay really close attention to New Japan have really been bought into El Desperado, and I think that that's going to continue. And I think he's a great junior heavyweight champion, but he obviously wasn't going to beat Okada, right? Like that would have been a huge upset, and he's not the junior that's going to beat Okada. I think that's a different junior at the top of the junior chain, but this was a great match. Would have been a classic anniversary show match, and it kind of is attached to the anniversary show as things kind of panned out here because they did something different with the anniversary show this year. But yeah, really awesome, good main event, classic New Japan main event style with these two. And I think El Desperado does a really good job of working the New Japan kind of house main event style. So, and I think that was proven here as he gets in there with like the quintessential main eventer.
Yeah, I thought this was a great matchup. I loved it. I went 4.5 on this match, and Desperado did a great job of actually making you think he could win. So unlike in the Yo Tanahashi match where it didn't really feel like at any point Yo actually had a chance to win, like Desperado here, I felt did an excellent job of just getting the momentum and really getting the fans behind him, making them think, oh, wow, can the junior champ up at the heavyweight champ, which I think a lot of people, even, I've seen a lot of Western fans, getting behind Despy, and they really wanted to see Okada get knocked out here. From a business standpoint, that didn't make sense, but also that would have probably been the biggest upset in the tournament and could have led to a whole interesting trajectory here. But, Despy working over the needs of Okada, and we've seen, Naito in that match was working over Okada's knees, so that was kind of a bullseye there, especially for Despy in that numero dos submission hole, which he worked several times, and there was a near submission towards the end there where he had it cranked. He had both arms locked, and Okada really had to fight out of that thing.
Yeah, and there was a cool counter to the drop kick too, right? That was a cool sequence.
Yeah, Okada went for the drop kick, and then Despy caught him out of midair into the numero dos.
Yeah, which was very cool and something that you rarely see in an Okada match. I've never seen anything like that. So that was a cool situation too. Yeah, this is a match. If I'm looking at night one and I'm thinking like I've only got a couple of minutes, right? Like that's the match to watch, obviously. And then I think other than that, I think you're checking out maybe Shima to see the Shima reaction, and maybe you're watching Naito Yujiro because if you're a Naito guy, but yeah, like ultimately this was a really good, easy to watch show. It felt very New Japan, right? It felt very old school New Japan, where like strong card all the way through. Everything had some meaning, very little on the bullshit, right? And then a really solid main event between two guys, right? So it was a really fun show. It was a really, really fun way to start the tournament. It got me really excited about the rest of the tournament. And, as we trim some of the fat going through from 48 now down to 32 and then 32 to 16, then that's where we're going to start to see things really take off. But this really did, I think, set a tone for, what the New Japan Cup's going to look like, which is a lot of enjoyable singles matches.
Yeah, overall, really fun show. Solid wrestling all up and down the card, and then a great main event. Something else I want to point out, we talked about in the Tanahashi-Yo match where, Tanahashi puts Yo away with the Dragon Suplex is not his main finisher. Then we got kind of a similar thing here where, we saw in the G1 last year, Okada would go for the money clip because he felt like he lapped the field. He wanted to try and beat people with the money clip. And so here towards the end, it seemed like he was going to put Desperado away with the money clip, but then I think he realized, like, man, like, Despy kind of earned this Rainmaker and kind of leave.
Yeah, right.
Look at that final sequence.
He's like, you know what? I'm just going to smack him with the Rainmaker and call it a day. But, I didn't want to do it, but here we are.
Yeah, he let go of the money clip, which led into that final sequence there with him finally getting the landslide and then hit him with the Rainmaker. Right. So, yeah, really fun matchup there. And Okada has another junior set for him in the next round.
And I like when Okada buzzes through like kind of the finishing sequence really quick, and you like, instead of you waiting for that kick out, like he hit like boom, whatever, drop kick, landslide, Rainmaker, like there's no way he's getting up. There's no like in between or like waiting for like that second Rainmaker. Like this was kind of like that, where it's just like boom, boom, done, and then we're calling it a day.
Yeah. So that wraps up night one. Moving on to night two, we had a show opening up with Yuji Nagata defeating Kosei Vegeta, 7 minutes and 36 seconds. This is a non-tournament match, and kind of what you expect. Your dad versus your young lion. Nagata gets to win with a Nagata lock, so that's what you expect. If you close your eyes and picture Nagata versus young lion, that's exactly what we got here.
Yeah. Obvious what you're gonna get, but it's always enjoyable. No issues here.
So then after that, we had a Bull Club team of Chase, ELP, and Goto defeating the Great Bash Heel team of Makabe and Hanma. They teamed with Tiger Mask. They defeated them in 9 minutes and 3 seconds. And I think that the main story here is what's happening with Bull Club. We're continuing to see ELP, be gun shy with the sudden death since it's been exposed. And this time it was kind of Chase Owens is the one that was kind of arguing with him and him being disappointed. And we've been seeing these promos with Goto telling these guys, Jay White says you need to pick the right side, and we've seen an impact that Jay wants a too sweet thrown back up versus it being thrown back down. So it's like, all right, are these guys throwing it up? Are they throwing it down? ELP's been having issues with Taiji, now he has issues with Chase, and so it seems like none of these guys are on the same page right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story. I do kind of like the too sweet up or too sweet down differentiator, and I hope that kind of continues like in perpetuity, because it is kind of funny. But well, funny, it's not funny, it's just like one of those little things that shouldn't matter, but they make it matter. So yeah, and ELP is an interesting character right now, because I think there's some chatter about, is ELP the junior, or is he kind of bulking up a little bit to maybe take a run at the Never or something like that. So he's a guy to watch. I think he's always been a guy that New Japan's liked a lot. So and we'll see what happens in this tournament with him once he really gets going.
Yeah, I mean, he has a big matchup against Osprey coming up, and so that's also going to be, we've seen them have great matches before, especially in Best of Super Juniors 2019. So this is going to be, I think, a launching form, like you mentioned, of ELP maybe getting into that Never division first, and then potentially going fully heavyweight. Yeah,
seems like it'd be worth dipping the toe, right? I mean, but again, he hasn't had quite that. He hasn't had any sort of establishing run as a junior, but he's a tall guy, and they say that junior heavyweight is dependent on their actual weight, but it's more about their height.
Right.
If you really look at the juniors, they're all short guys, and if you look at anyone that ever advances to heavy, they're tall.
Right, look at like a Zack Saber Jr.
Yeah,
straight from the get, he was a heavyweight, and it's like, I'm sure if you get him on a scale, he's gonna weigh in at especially when he first came in. He's bulked up a little bit now, but he was super skinny when he first came in, and he should have probably definitely been a junior if it's just based on weight. But he's so tall and has such a unique style, like he was able to mix it up with heavyweights.
Yeah, and then you think about when Shingo came in, and Shingo's a little more stocky and short, and they were like, yeah, you're a junior. And everyone around the planet were like, what? Like, why are we putting him in Best of Super Juniors? Bless them for doing that, because of what a wonderful run he had. But like, was that, I mean, come on. Did he bulk up now? Is he 3 pounds heavier and now he's a heavyweight? Like, no, but yeah, so curious where we go with the LP. He'll I'm sure keep calling me a nerd somewhere.
And the thing is, even though he's been, lacking confidence with the super kick, he has been the one picking up the wins in all these multi-man matches. So here, Chase hits the package pile driver, and then he gets tagged in, and he hits the Thunder Kiss 86 to get the win on Hanma here. So then moving on to the next matchup, we had 6 or 9 Wato and Taguchi teaming up with Tanahashi. They defeated the House of Torture, Evil, Show, and Yujiro in 9 minutes and 59 seconds. Nothing really too big of a story here. Obviously, Evil and Show are still alive in the tournament, as well as Wato and Taguchi. Taguchi had a match coming up with Evil, so that was kind of a little preview match there. Nice little 6-man tag, nothing crazy here. So,
yeah, not much to analyze there.
Then after that, we had LIJ, Romeo, Sonata, Shingo, and Naito defeating the Chaos team of Okada, Ishii, Yano, and Yo. Again, Hiromu still alive, Sonata, Shingo, and Naito, all these guys still alive in the tournament. Okada and Ishii alive, Yano and Yo being out. Again, just kind of another, mainly a preview, I guess, for Shingo and Ishii, which they did have a nice little pull apart here in the middle of the match. They were gunning each other from the get-go and just going straight at each other. Yeah, another one of your kind of classic preview matches. Yeah, so good stuff there. And then we had the last preview match here. We had the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale and Taiji Ishimori, surprisingly here, defeating the United Empire team of Great Okan and Jeff Cobb. Cobb and Okan have always been very dominant as a tag team, picking up several wins, especially last year, and going up against this mixed match team of Fale and Ishimori. And it's funny, one of the guys, James Ford, he was like, when you think of all the Bullet Club combos, he's like, I never thought of the combo of Bad Luck Fale and Taiji Ishimori. And it's just kind of one of the, even though they're in the same faction, it's almost kind of like a Fire Pro. You hit random, and it's like, all right, Fale and Ishimori. Yeah, but it was kind of good when it comes down to it. That was
it ended up being more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. And obviously they're setting up Ishimori and Great-O-Khan because that's their next matchup. And this made for a good preview. And Ishimori stole Great-O-Khan's headwear on the way out, and he wore it. And Ishimori's got better comedy chops than I think he gets credit for most of the time. So, but I think it's pretty clear where we're headed here with Great-O-Khan, but just based on Great-O-Khan's year so far with all these singles wins and stuff, you figure he's going to have some sort of run through the New Japan Cup. But
I'm sure that the him losing here was to set up some intrigue for that Ishimori match and kind of maybe Ishimori might have a chance here. So I mean, he didn't get the pin. I mean, he distracted the ref, which allowed and did hit a low blow. Then Fale was able to hit the grenade, so he got pinned by a heavyweight, but still. It's kind of like, all right, well, he's on the losing side of Ishimori, and so maybe Ishimori might have a chance.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask, right? As you head into what I'm calling the traditional first round of the tournament, the round of 32. You just hope to build some intrigue for some of these first round matches that look like they're pretty clear cut.
Yeah. So then we move into our tournament matches, the last 3 matches of the night. So first we had Aaron Hanare defeating Yuto Nakashima. 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
As expected, right? I mean, this show was in a smaller venue. Well, it looks huge, right? It looks like this massive, kind of warehousey building, and it's a good looking building, but and it lost its main event, right? The main event was supposed to be Bushy and Great-O-Khan, which would have been would have significantly added to the show, right? So on paper, when you looked at night 2 of the New Japan Cup, they definitely weren't keeping the hype up from night 1, right? Like it was really loaded with a couple of young lion matches and Bushy versus Will Osprey, right? And so this is not the biggest of New Japan Cup shows, but as expected, Hanare gets the win here. Love to see him move on, and he'll match up with Sonata after Sonata's bye, and that actually should be a pretty good match.
Yeah, and I thought Nakashima looked good here. He made the most of his timing here with Hanare and getting a little bit of advantage here, and showing that young line fire. But at the end, he ran into the Rampage tackle, and Hanare gets the win. He's gonna move on to face Sonata in round 2. And then we had, in the next tournament matchup, we had Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Ryohei Oiwa, 10 minutes and 35 seconds.
Same. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr. is making it a tradition to meet up with the young lion in the first round of the New Japan Cup. Last year was Gabriel Kidd, and that was an excellent match. Kidd, obviously, kind of in a different position, especially in regards to relationship with Zack Sabre Jr., but this was also... I mean, it's good. It's good to see the young lions go in and mix it up with different types of wrestlers. And Oiwa is very good, I think. And I think this whole crop of young lions, like we've got a couple of years to watch them grow, but they're all very good. And I think they've all got a lot of the foundation that, we would look for in New Japan to be successful. So, good to see them mix it up. Obvious result, right? You're not going to see Zack Sabre Jr. lose to a young lion in the first round of a New Japan Cup, but what it does set up is Zack Sabre Jr. versus Doki in round 2, which is awesome. I think Doki seems to be running through in different scenarios and even with different companies. His thing this year seems to be singles matches against other Suzuki-gun guys. So I think that's this is a cool opportunity to do that in a way that feels natural.
Yeah, and I think those Suzuki-gun matches, it's almost like a battle of respect, and I think Doki's been really shining in some of those battles he's been having, and so it's going to be a great matchup.
So that's a great, and if you think about it, if they had booked that as the first round, like people would be going nuts about it. People within this circle, people that have been paying attention to Doki, right? Like that's the thing. It's like if you're not paying attention, you don't really think much of it. But as soon as you are like really kind of tapped into the product, that's a meaningful match.
Yeah. So in the main event on this night, we had Will Osprey defeating Bushy, 12 minutes and 48 seconds.
What did you think of this match?
I thought it was weird. So
that's the word, right?
You would think with a show that lost its main event that they would maybe do like a 20-minute main event. These guys go balls to the wall, and we've seen these guys have a great match. 2019,
absolutely. Power struggle.
Yeah, Power Struggle 2019, Best Super Juniors. These guys have had pretty good matches together in the junior division. So you're thinking, all right, well, it's Will Osprey, one of the best wrestlers in the world, and Bushy, who's fine, who can be carried by Will. And so you're like, all right, this is the main event now. Run it, and we didn't
have a main event, right?
Right. We didn't get that. We got a 12-minute match that could have been an opener on night one. And then we have the 4 referee bumps: Red Shoes down, Kento Sato down, Marty Asami down. You had to bring in some of the newer refs that they've been debuting recently. It was just weird. Like, I don't get like why they need those 4 ref bumps. Like, Cobb or Okada, nobody ran down to help Osprey. LIJ came down to maybe help Bushy pull an upset. It was like maybe they felt because it was the main event they need to add these ref bumps. Like, to me, that didn't make me think, oh, Bushy might win now, especially nobody ran out. It was just, I don't know, it's weird.
Somebody somewhere said they think that the last referee, which is like their newest referee, is from Fukushima. So they wanted to somehow work him, but just assign him the main event then. Like, we don't have to go through all this to get there. So, but I think that they were trying to get some sort of cheap pop out of that. And they might have, I don't know. I mean, like, it's kind of hard to tell, but that's what somebody said. And I forget who said that. I wish I could credit them right now, but they weren't confident in that being the truth. So I couldn't say that with any confidence either.
Yeah, it seemed like instead of going the route of have a great match, guys, well, let's do a bunch of like shenanigans and smoke and mirrors to make it feel like a hot angled main event. But it's like, these guys haven't been feuding. They haven't really, I don't know when the last time they've even wrestled each other, but it's not like
it was Power Struggle.
Yeah, and like they've had
2019 Power Struggle, which was a great match.
Right, and so like it's not like they have like a storied history where they have like all these matchups and there's like a story and a rivalry. It's like they've had some great matchups. Like, why not just let them have a great matchup here?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and Osprey was like peak surprised face Will Osprey too, where it's just like a lot of reactionary faces and stuff. And I want him to get back to like heel badass Will Osprey, which hopefully we start to see. In the his next match is with El Phantasmo, because he obviously he won this match, so we've already kind of talked a little bit about that, but that should be, I'm hopeful for that match for both those guys to put on a show.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. So yeah, Osprey picked up the win here with the hidden blade. Didn't use the Stormbreaker here. Puts Bushy away, cuts his post match promo, and claims he's going to win the New Japan Cup. And so this will bring us to our last night that we'll review here on this week's show, night 3, which happened on Monday. And so the show opened up. We had the United Empire of Aaron Hanare, Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Osprey, defeating the Great Bad Shield team of Makabe Hanma, Tanahashi, and Oiwa. Not too many things to really break down here or to analyze. I think the big thing is, after the match, all the Empire guys were kind of pointing to the trophy and kind of maybe friendly, jaw-jacking, like, I'm going to win kind of thing. So it's going to be interesting if my prediction kind of comes true and we see some Empire versus Empire stuff.
Yeah, and I hope for that, to be honest, because I think that that's the last group that you don't see them fight much, right? Like, I would love to see Jeff Cobb and Will Osprey again in their current kind of form factor, or Great-O-Khan against any of them, right? So, yeah, I think we'll see, right? We'll see where that goes. And I think that it's interesting they all got through the first round. They seem to do everything together, right? They lose at Wrestle Kingdom together. they win in the first round of the New Japan Cup together. So, and obviously Osprey's got some recent history with the New Japan Cup. So there's some strategy to be had there. And Cobb obviously had a great run through the G1 in Osprey's absence. And Great-O-Khan still establishing himself, and Aaron Hanare, finally got a tournament win, right, in round 1. So they should be rolling confident, and they that is an intriguing storyline to see if they end up crossing paths.
Yeah, So then next matchup here, we had the Bullet Club team of ELP, Taiji, and Yujiro defeating the LIJ team of Bushy, Sonata, and Naito. And I think the big thing here is the continuation of the whole Bullet Club storyline that we're talking about. And interesting here, you had Yujiro, House of Torture guy, teaming up with normal Bullet Club, and we've kind of rarely seen House of Torture really interact with the rest of Bullet Club. And Yujiro's the one guy, like on commentary, Chris Charlton and Kevin Kelly were kind of talking about, Yujiro's that one guy that's always kind of jumped from faction to faction and done what's best for him. So is this a thing of where Yujiro's kind of trying to play nice with everybody so in case he wants to flip to that side of Bullet Club, he can, and he's good? Or is it something where Evil's like sending Yujiro to do this to kind of keep House of Torture good with those guys, so when Jay White comes back, those guys side of House of Torture? There's a lot of implications here with this matchup, and Yujiro, what exactly his, where his allegiances really lie.
Such dramatic things happening in Bullet Club. Where will Yujiro go?
Yes, will he be Hollywood? Will he be stay with House of Torture?
I can see Yujiro being Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tokyo Pimp, right? I mean, like, he could be the Hollywood Pimp for sure.
He's got the bleach blonde hair.
Yeah.
Sunglasses. It's this man, he's ready to be in Hollywood.
Listen, every faction, or I guess segment of the Bullet Club needs someone to lay down. And, Yujiro, he's willing. So
yeah,
you got to keep him around.
And then again here, we also had tension between ELP and Ishimori. And at this point, Ishimori's over ELP not wanting to throw a super kick. So he did a blind tag when ELP was chewing the band up. And then Ishimori hit the Bloody Cross. And then ELP tagged himself back in and ends up hitting the... what's his blanking now, his Styles class.
CR2?
Yeah, CR2 hits that, gets the win for the team, and there was a little bit of argument there, and they ended up throwing a 2-sweet down. So maybe these guys are still on the House of Torture side of things for right now.
How do you throw it in the middle, right? Does it come like...
Do you like to start and like elevate it?
Or like do you start high and then go low and then like bring it up to like chest height and just like push it forward? Where Jeremy and I are on video and I'm demonstrating this right now.
You start at middle and you just kind of
start at the shoulder.
Yeah, and you just kind of shoot
forward.
It straight. Yeah.
Because now, I mean, there's really kind of 3 different units, right? So you can't, one's going to take up, one's going to take down. And like, what, does one do like a spin move, like do it all around, right? Like, it's like the hokey pokey. Right.
Like, or do you do like a Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash? You jump with it
and do extra high.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. Yeah. Interesting. Curious to see how that goes. But someone's got to take, that has to come up at some point. Just a middle, like I'm not going up and I'm not going down. I'm going to shoot it straight across. That seems like a Fale thing.
Yeah.
It's like too much effort to go up or down.
Right.
So I'm gonna just like push it.
It's a quick like in the middle push.
Yeah.
So after that we had Sugun, Doki, Despi, Taichi, Kanemaru, and ZSJ. They defeated the Chaos team of Goto, Okada, Yano, Yo, and Yoshi Hoshi. Not too much to really break down here. Fun multi-man matchup here, and kind of building towards some upcoming tournament matches for these guys.
Yeah, the only real intrigue on some of these undercards is, I guess, what ends up happening with United Empire. If you like that unit, nice to see them all in the same place again. I guess that's all of them that have ever been in New Japan proper, at least. Mm-hmm. And then the Bullet Club stuff, and then for some reason, like the match before the tournament matches always seems to just be this, just like whatever mishmash preview of what's coming up. So no real like story advancement.
Yeah. So then we go into our tournament matches of the evening. First tournament matchup, we had the Crown Jewel Chase Owens defeating Jado 7 minutes and 13 seconds. So more Bullet Club storyline playing out here.
Yeah. Jado did get a visual tap out from Chase, which I thought was interesting, on Chase Owens' 32nd birthday. So happy birthday to Chase Owens. And but you obviously didn't think you were going to get a second singles match out of Jado here. So
right.
He hasn't won a singles match in almost 3,000 days now in his entire career. So that's a stretch. You know, that's one of my favorite stats I got to pull up for round one. So, yeah. So this was a match that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was Chase kind of it seemed a little bit aggressive against Jado. And, Jado's an interesting piece in this whole Bullet Club Civil War because he was really the one that was kind of the manager for Girls of Destiny. And, Tama and Tangaloa, those were his guys. And so they got turned on. So where does Jado, is he kind of playing it cool for right now and waiting to side with those guys? Or is he going to stick with Goto and the Bullet Club Hollywood side? Or is he going to be in the middle? So it's gonna be interesting to see where he plays out, but yeah, it's pretty much just Chase kind of in control most of the match until that one ref bump happened and Jado got him in the crossface and he tapped. Ref comes back in and Chase hits him with the big C trigger and gets the win there. And then post match he tries to take care of Jado, gets the ice pack and helps him to the back.
Which I guess we can call this like Bullet Club World War II. Right? Like, I guess I'll just throw the branding out there and see if it picks up. But
yeah,
which Bullet Club Civil War do you prefer? The like Cody Bucks, Cody Kenny, whatever one, or this kind of like really, I guess, ambiguous one that's like really no idea what's going on with anybody?
I think right now I'd still like Bullet Club Bullet Club World War One.
Yeah,
because it was also yeah, there obviously was more interesting guys, some bigger stars. Yeah, and that was the first time it kind of happened. I do think though we might get a better conclusion with this one because I don't see anybody leaving to go to start their own company or leave to another company.
Jay.
Right, yeah, Jake.
He's not going to start his own company, I don't think.
Right, but he could leave. Maybe Tony Khan was impressed with his AW outings, and so when his contract is up, maybe he's a guy who leaves. But I think within this calendar year, I think all these guys will be set, staying in New Japan, and we can get some kind of conclusion from this World War. And so I think we'll get a better conclusion here. But I liked where the first one was going, but we just didn't get the conclusion.
Yeah. Do you think we get an all Bullet Club G1 block?
I don't know if it's
all in the Bullet Club.
Maybe we get one where it's like four. Like you have a a Hollywood guy, you have a House of Torture guy, you have a Tongan, and then you have someone that's kind of in the middle, all in one block.
Yeah, I actually think that'd be kind of fascinating. Just
right,
the booking and the pathing for that. So
especially like by then, we might have clear battle lines where they are all splintered off and everybody's in their camps.
And if that's the case, if there's true, I guess, segmented lines, like even at some point, some of these dudes, like House of Torture is probably not going to continue existing as a subset of the Bullet Club, I don't think, right? I think they're the first group that I think just like completely splinters off and is their own thing. They kind of already are.
Right.
And just kind of like tangentially like attached to Bullet Club still. That would make things really interesting, I think, with if the G1 can't bring in any like outsiders, right? And we've got until summer to figure that out, but that would spice things up a little bit, right? Like, and honestly, you just on the other side of the block, you kind of do the same thing, like other dudes, all the LIJ guys, put them all in the same block, like just make people excited, like about something weird.
Sign me up for more Shingo versus Naito, Shingo versus Hiromu, Shingo versus Sonata.
Yeah, and maybe you get a Hiromu in the G1, right? If that's the path he's on. I think they probably want to wait on that, but who knows? Like there's some options they could do to spice things up. And I know I'm kind of fantasy booking out into the distant future here, but the Bullet Club stuff is front of mind. They've got enough of the guys on these shows that now they're really starting to advance some stuff there.
Right, and then you got stuff happening on Impact with Jay White and God directly.
Huge stuff.
So that's going on. So that's kind of helping things here on the West side. So yeah, a lot of things going on here in the States and in Japan. I think people are interested in what's kind of going on and where this is all going to end up.
Yeah, well, we saw it in LA. Like in the US, Bullet Club is a really important group to, I guess, the more casual side of the New Japan fandom. Like, that crowd in LA was way into Jay White, and Jay White had very little redeeming qualities about him at that point, but he was the babyface in LA because people love Bullet Club. So.
Right. And it's just one of those brands, it's a parody of the NWO. You look at the NWO, I still see people wearing NWO shirts.
Yeah.
There's always NWO reunions. 2K22 video game, NWO is a big part of that. And I think people, they love NWO even to this day. And if you get NWO reunion, people pop. And I think Bull Club is almost kind of in that way. It's parody NWO.
It's in that space. Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's one of those things, even though it's not the Bucks and Kenny or any of those guys or AJ or even Balor, you see that Bullet Club logo and you think back to those good times and you're like, yeah, I love Bullet Club. And GOD, I've seen them in the States and people love GOD as well. And so there's still a lot of Bullet Club guys that people love, and they love that branding and the feeling that logo gives them. And so I think people are still invested in this brand. I know people are thinking, it's been, however long it's been, 8 years, however long they've been going. It's like kind of over it. People want it to go away, but they still make money. People still invested, and like we saw in LA, Jay White's coming out there. People pop like crazy, loved him. He's too sweet and everybody, and it was still over.
Yeah, people love that shirt too. It's a classic black and white shirt. You can't go wrong.
Right, and I mean, there's so many versions of that shirt. So, it's a moneymaker, and people are still invested. So,
and that's why I don't think it'll ever go away. I think New Japan will have some sort of version of Bullet Club on their roster. I don't want to say till the end of time, but they're never going to kill it.
Right. Until it gets to the point, maybe unless the shirt sales go away.
Well, it's going to get to the point where like everyone who's ever been in Bullet Club is now a dad, right? And like,
right, yeah.
That's at the point where you probably just stop like really, really referencing it. But I don't know. They keep bringing in some young guys. Jay White's got plenty of life left in him as a leader, right? And he could make a turn. You could go babyface Bullet Club. I don't know. That seems a little weird, but I think they could try it. There's a lot of activity they could have there.
Yeah. So we move on to the next match. We had Evil defeating Ryusuke Taguchi 7 minutes and 26 seconds. We had Taguchi coming out dressed up as L.I.J. Evil.
That was good.
He had the dollar store skull mask, a plastic scythe, this big goofy coat on. Takes the mask off. He has this like, the old like evil heavy like dark eyeliner on the eyes, and it's like a complete goofball.
This is so good. Just for a first round New Japan Cup match, I don't know. That was pretty good. I didn't expect much out of it, but that was the moment of the match too. Really, yeah. There's not much more to say.
Yeah, it's what you expect. Again, it's one of those situations you close your eyes and envision a House of Torture Evil versus Taguchi. Lots of hip attacks, a lot of shenanigans. Obviously, they're Evil grabbing the ref, and there being ref bumps, and Togo getting involved. And Taguchi trying his best. He got an ankle lock on both Evil and Togo. Togo ended up tapping out, but obviously he's not in the match, and he eventually gets out, and Evil hits everything is Evil on Taguchi and gets the win.
Yeah, easy peasy.
Yeah. And
sets up Evil to move on. I know, I'm sure we'll go through the second round match, but the next match is, since we were just talking about Bullet Club, I think it's important to note that the next Evil match is Evil versus Tama Tonga. So there's something there, to brewing.
That's going to be a big match. I know Tama tweeted out that picture of like him in the dojo with Evil, and he's saying, I trust him. We know last time in the G1, it didn't seem like he really trusted him and wanted to do anything with House of Torture, and so this match, again, it's going to be interesting to see if Evil tries to play it straight with Tama here to stay on his good side, or is Evil just more concerned about House of Torture and what's going on with G.O.D. and Jay. So then we move on to the semi-main event of the evening. We had Hiromu Takahashi defeating Sho 15 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah. I really wish Sho could just
wrestle
because he's pretty good at it. And Hiromu obviously is also very good at it. And these guys have had, I mean, regardless of how you felt about it, the 35-minute match, I guess at the beginning of 2021, was it? It's like a really kind of long main event style junior heavyweight championship match. I think it was on the New Beginning tour. I could be wrong. There was so much good that they could have drawn out of that. And Sho, I just don't think he's that good at this heel thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's working. I don't think he's that good at it. I know they need a junior and, all that, blah, 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 right? You build a faction in New Japan and you're going to get a tag team, a junior, a heavyweight at every level. And then you're going to get some kind of miscellaneous stuff, a pin eater, etc. But like, I just don't think this role is fitting Sho all that well. And I think it's because like his style it doesn't lend itself to like slow and methodical.
Right.
The way I think Evil's does, right? If I'm looking at people in House of Torture, like Evil's style lends itself and has always lended itself to this type of stuff. And Sho, I'm sorry, Karen, it's just it's not working for me. It's not landing for me. Like I kind of like some of the Evil stuff, right? And I know people have really, really strong feelings about it, but like I like his lane, and his lane is very clear. And I think Sho's lane is really clear too, but it's not working nearly as well. And maybe it's because they haven't established him with like a big run where he's been successful.
Right.
A run with the junior championship, a run where he beats Hiromu in the first round of the New Japan Cup and advances, right? Like something like that establishes this new mindset as something that works to bring success. And the thing is, right now with Sho, we haven't seen it bring him any success, but he's still going back to the well. And I think that that's a misalignment of, I guess, priorities for him as a wrestler in kayfabe.
Yeah. It's so hard to get invested in this matches, especially with all. I mean, honestly, so at the beginning of this match, Hiromu was coming out and he drags her. He attacked Hiromu for chair backstage and drags Hiromu out. And literally from that, like I had a hard time getting invested. Just from that, I'm like, really, this is how we're starting this thing already with the shenanigans.
Like he couldn't give us 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the Yujiro Naito match. Like, Yujiro was trying to play it straight, and then we got the interference. Like you couldn't give us like these guys that's like having their normal matchup, and then you go to the House of Torture crap.
Or even like Hiromu with like the face where he's like waiting for it or always looking behind him or something.
Right.
Like there's a way to play it up a little bit for a little while and see where it lands. But yeah, no, it's not landing for me. I want it to, because I don't want to hate stuff, right? Like I don't hate watch this stuff. Like I really, really enjoy New Japan, obviously. And like I said, I've come around on a lot of the Evil stuff when it's like slotted in that middle never division, and when he's just beating the shit out of Ryusuke Taguchi, like that all makes sense to me,
Yeah.
But the Sho stuff, nothing has hit me with Sho that says like this is good.
Right. Yeah, it's just not been fun at all. And this matchup, Hiromu pretty much fighting from underneath the majority of the match, and we're getting all the House of Torture shenanigans. At the end of the match, Sho pushes Hiromu into a ref, hits a low blow, tries to use a wrench again, but Hiromu ducks. Hiromu then runs Sho into an exposed turnbuckle. Yujiro hits the ring and gets involved. Yujiro drops Hiromu with the cane. Sho then hits the cross-arm pile driver. Hiromu kicks out of that, reverses the shock arrow into a quick roll-up, and gets the flash pin surprise victory over Sho. And that will set Hiromu up to face Suzuki in the next round.
Which will be great. Well, it has potential to be great.
Yeah. It should be better than this match.
Yes. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even if you go through and play the hits with Suzuki, that's still better than this.
Yeah.
It's better than Sho, right? And Hiromu, that should be all right.
Yeah. So then the main event of the evening, absolute banger. The Dragon Shingo Takagi defeated the Stone Pitbull Tomohiro Ishii, 23 minutes and 32 seconds.
I thought I was tired of Shingo versus Ishii, and I was wrong about my own opinion, because this was as good as they can do. Such heights, such highs. I mean, just these guys, they have just this immeasurable chemistry with each other. And, I want this rivalry, or I guess it's rivalry at this point. Like, I want it to be a little more even, right? I want there to be more Ishii wins, I guess, in the rivalry. But I get it, right? Shingo's the hot hand still. But these guys beat the hell out of each other, and they had a great match. And I had watched a lot of wrestling, right? Because there's so much on that AEW show that was so enjoyable. I had obviously kept up with all the New Japan shows, last week, and all the tournament matches. And this was kind of the last match of that cycle for me, right? Of like, I'm just going to watch a ton of wrestling until I can't watch wrestling anymore. And, thinking that I would be kind of drained, like this being kind of the really, truly the main event of round one. Not even just of this show, but it's the last match of round one, and also just like the most questionable match of round one. And my God, they did it again. And at 23 minutes, it was just kind of the right amount of time. And they went through their paces, but in a way that it was a G1 level sprint. And I really, really enjoyed this match. It really kind of reestablished Shingo as a strong player in the tournament too, which I think was important if he was going to be someone who moved into round two. And I know that you probably have a colored opinion, being as you were in the building for Revolution, but this was just as good as anything that I watched this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. And very similar boat to you, where I watched, like I mentioned earlier, I watched a ton of wrestling this weekend. And, driving back to Tampa Monday morning, I was kind of tired. I was like, let me watch this New Japan show. And, everything else before it was fine. And I was just like, I felt like I was burnt out. I was like, this is all fine. And then Shingo Ishii comes. I'm like, I'm sure it's going to be great. And it gets going. I'm like, yes, this is what I like. And I'm up off the couch. I'm energized all of a sudden. I'm watching this thing, and they're throwing their bombs. Their Larry gets their chops. And, especially the towards the end there, where they had all the 1 count kick out. So,
yes.
Shingo,
I love the 1 count kick out.
Yes.
It's my favorite New Japan trope.
Yeah, Ishii hits a snap German. Shingo pops up, and then Ishii knocks him back down for lariat. Shingo kicks out at 1. Shingo then reverses the brainbuster, hits a brainbuster of his own. Ishii kicks out at 0.9.
0.9. Well, yes. Chris Charlton or whoever just yelling 0.9 it wasn't even 1. I love that.
And they were hitting these big moves and kicking out at 1. It was epic. Like, you can tell the crowd, even though they couldn't cheer, the claps were intense. Yeah, and it was just the atmosphere, you feel that big fight feel. And honestly, this could potentially be the best matchup of the weekend if you include all the Revolution and Rampage stuff. I'm 4 3/4 on this thing, and I think the highest I went on anything on AEW was 4.5. So
depends what you like, right? AEW had the big story matches and really big blow-offs, right? And that's all great. And it depends what you're looking at. But man, for New Japan tournament house style matches, this was the cookie cutter, but in the best way, the absolute best way. Okay, so I'm going to explain this in a way that's probably kind of funny. So I watch New Japan very frequently, very similarly to the people that are in the New Japan building, in that I cannot cheer, because I'm watching it on I have a 16-inch laptop, and I'll watch the shows on the laptop and have the Twitter, machine open on my phone. But my wife is asleep next to me because it's 3 a.m. We've talked about this on the show. I'm mostly a live watcher of New Japan. And it's one of those things where if I do this, if I go, at the end of a match, when it finally ends, it almost always wakes up either my dogs or my wife, and my wife will be like, good show this morning? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm doing all right. I don't get to get up and Joe Lanza stand and pace, but if I make that noise, Like, but that's the noise that comes out of people's, that's the vocalized noise of Japanese pro wrestling right now too. So I feel for them and I cheer in my heart, but I also I sometimes just can't help the reaction. And this was one of those matches when it ended, I was like, oh, it's actually over. Like, they actually ended it a little bit sooner than I thought they would, but I think they ended it at the peak. And I think the previous couple of Shingo Ishii matches, really ever since their first match, I think went a little further past the peak because they did a little bit more like main event style. And this one was just a classic. Like, you could have put the Never Openweight Championship on this in 2017, and like this would have really hit the mark there. So this is a match I cannot recommend higher. And I think, it's going to end up near my match of the year list, even as a first round New Japan Cup match. And that says something, because that's not usually a space where you see those types of matches.
Right. And I forget exactly what Kevin Kelly's comments were, but he said something along the line, yeah, this could be like the best New Japan match of the year. And he said we're kind of victim of being in the present. We had a lot of great matches at Wrestle Kingdom, but this was kind of right up there with some of the, the Osprey, Shingo, and Osprey and Okada and Shingo. That was kind of right up there with that level of quality. And yeah, this is going to be one of those things where this could be the best matchup of the whole tournament. Also, we still have a lot of top guys in there, and there's potential for a lot of great matchups down the end as we get to later rounds. But as of right now, like, this could easily walk away as the best match of the tournament.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it's going to be hard to top. And as you get deeper in the tournament, obviously there's going to be the chance to do it. But remember this one. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. This show was also free. It's free on New Japan World. So that is that should help the visibility of such a great match.
Definitely.
And what a match to give away for free.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, you're probably like us, you probably watched a lot of wrestling this weekend. You probably felt like you were burnt out. Well, now, get on it, log on New Japan World. It's free. If you don't have a subscription, watch this matchup, because I'm guaranteed it's going to be talked about throughout the year, later in the year, where Grapple lists are coming out and people are voting in the Voices of Wrestling and Observer and all that stuff. Like, this matchup's going to be thrown out there.
Yeah, I don't think they've split up the matches for that card yet. So I will, by the time anyone's hearing this, I'll figure out the timestamp for this particular match, and I'll put a tweet up with it.
Nice. But yeah, because I mean, this was like, if you are short on time and you're just trying to watch the highlights of the tournament, like, this is definitely the must watch from this show and from pretty much this whole run of shows.
Yeah, I mean, the only other one that I would really put even close to this level of like, you should really watch it, would be Desperado and Okada.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great matchup as well.
Yeah. Overall, the first round, we were talking about it off air, very kind of chalk picks. You had a couple of pick'ems, but nothing, obviously Shingo and Ishii, you were going to see people who could think that would go either way. But other than that, there wasn't much. There wasn't the big shock, right? And that's
right.
Part of me thinks that, like, and I think I've even said it already tonight, like, we are just now heading into like the traditional first round, right? The round of 32, and now we've got some more potential for, I guess for an upset that might be kind of meaningful.
Yeah. Overall, yeah, just really, really good opening of the tournament here. And yeah, I think we're on board for some more great matchups here. There was a question I missed here from Dark Soldier. He says, in the show Hiromu match, he said Kevin Kelly literally said that the House of Torture antics are killing the business. First, Frank Gotch says Harley Race is killing the business with his flying headbutt and hair. Then Stone Cold killing the business with his middle fingers. And the Bucks are killing the business according to Jim Cornette. And now House of Torture are killing the business. How many people are killing the business? How many?
Everyone. They're all killing the business. I'm killing the business with statistics in pro wrestling. I've been told that, so I'd like myself added to the list. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say that House of Torture is killing any business because of the COVID situation and restrictions that still exist in Japan. though they've been lifted in most other places in the world. But I think once we see the ability to have a full house in Japan and for people to cheer and boo, it may be killing the business, because I think that there's a lot of eye rolls, I think, that happen with all the house torture stuff. So we'll see. We'll see. Or maybe it's super over and people really hate it and it's got actual heat. We will find out, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, the scary thing for me, there was that one Corkin show. I saw a bunch of evil towels in the crowd. And I know Corkin's usually the smart crowd, and they're kind of in, like, they kind of go against the grain, or they kind of like the people they like. And evil's always been popular, especially in Japan. And I remember in Dallas for the press conference, he came out and people were losing their mind. I didn't understand it. So there's something about evil that he has that kind of charisma that people, like his maybe more presence, he has that presence that people kind of draw to him and like him for whatever reason. And so this could be one of those things. Yeah, we get audible crowds again, and they're in on it. They're booing. They like the heat, and I'm hoping that's not the case, because I really don't want to see more of this stuff. And, you know, quote unquote, it's not killing the business, because obviously the business is still here, it's still going. But you know, you see a Shingo versus Ishii, and you see the way the crowd is reacting to that, and that's the stuff that people want versus the House of Torture stuff. So hopefully we swing more in the Ishii Shingo route going forward and kind of taper off some of the evil stuff a little bit.
We've been talking about that for 2 years now, year and a half. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
It all does tie back to the New Japan Cup, though, right? That was the turn. So it did make for a memorable moment for this particular tournament. So, you know, maybe, who knows? Who knows what that really means?
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned no big first round upsets here. And you mentioned a lot of people, I think, were maybe looking at the Shingo Ishii match. But even for me, like, that also Ishii's beaten Shingo before, and these guys had this kind of rivalry. But we were talking about this before we went on the air. You know, Shingo, he's a different man now. He was the world champion. He was in a main event in the Tokyo Dome. He's a little bit higher up on the pecking poll, the totem pole now than he was, say, even 2 years ago.
Even last year's New Japan Cup.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and he was a finalist in last year's New Japan Cup. So that's something in its own way.
And last year, like Kevin Kelly mentioned, like he ran through all like 4 former New Japan Cup winners to get to those finals. Like he's on a different level now, and I thought it would have been similar to how, maybe not as drastic, but similar to Despy beating Okada. I don't think that would be good business. I don't think it would have been good business for Ishii to beat Shingo here. I think Shingo is still coming off momentum as being world champion, having those great matches towards the end of the year, and then having the great Dome match with Okada. I think a lot of people want to see Shingo get back on the saddle and challenge again. And I think they definitely elevated his stock, and you can make some money putting Shingo in the main event of some of these shows.
And I think Shingo's been pretty quiet since he lost that championship match. But I mean, in the last 365, he was 20-5 in singles matches, and most of that, and with 9 hours of ring time in a year, which is right up there, sniffing up on Will Ospreay's big year in 2019 when he had not quite, or at as many matches and then almost 2 hours more ring time. But I mean, Shingo hitting almost 10 hours of ring time in a calendar year in singles matches, most of them as a champion of some sort, because some of it was his never run too. But man, he's still up there. But like I said, he had been a little quiet after he lost the championship at Tokyo Dome. And I think this was a great reminder that he's still a main event player. I think New Japan has turned Shingo Takagi into a true main eventer that they can kind of heat up and cool down as they go. And people will continue to buy into it because he's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, during the Golden Series, he was in a lot of multi-mans, but he was the main one picking up the wins.
Getting the wins,
in those multi-mans. So even though he wasn't in a big singles program doing the Golden Series, they were racking those wins up for him and keeping him heated up. And so at any point, like he gets back into a title shot, it makes a ton of sense.
And Shingo's got a pretty clear path through. Well, you would think, right? Through at least a little bit further into this tournament, he's got Tangaloa next in the next round, and then after that, he gets the winner of Chase Owens versus Tiger Mask, assuming he gets through Tangaloa. Assuming he gets through that, he could end up with any of Evil, Tamatonga, Hiromu Takahashi, and Minoru Suzuki. So, like, that's really when you start to see Shingo threatened, which would be, I guess, the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see some more Shingo singles matches here. That would be my bet. I guess Tangaloa would be a candidate because of all the Bullet Club stuff to have an upset in the round of 32 here. But I think that's a pretty hefty long shot.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at some of the upcoming nights that we have coming up this week. So tournament will pick back up on Wednesday, March 9th. So by the time you're listening to this, it's probably already aired. So March 9th, we have a 4:30 a.m. Eastern start time for night 4. We'll have some multi-man matches. So opening up the show, we'll have Tanahashi and Tiger Mask versus Bad Luck Fale and Chase. Then we'll have Goto and Sho. So very interesting there. We have, Bullet Club Hollywood and House of Torture teaming up against Bushy and Naito. Another Bullet Club match. We have a mix-up again here. We have ELP, Evil, Ishimori, and Yujiro. So a mix here of that Bullet Club units taking on the United Empire, Hanare, Okan, Cobb, and Osprey. And then we'll have Suzuki Gun, Doki, Suzuki, and Tai Chi taking on Hiromu, Sonata, and Shingo. And then that'll bring us to the tournament matches. We'll have Hiroki Goto versus Dick Togo, Yoshinobu Kanemaru versus Shima, and Kazuchika Okada versus Master Wato.
Yeah, and that's all at Korakuen, but there's not a lot to sink your teeth into in the way of the second round matches. That particular set of New Japan Cup tournament matches, those all look pretty clear, but I am curious to see how they play out with Kanemaru versus Shima. But like I said earlier, like Shima is kind of the most intriguing member of this tournament for me so far. So, but otherwise, you get Okada in the main event at Korakuen. He is on an 18-match win streak at Korakuen Hall in singles matches. So I don't foresee Master Wato being the person to break that win streak. But you got to figure that part of, I think, what's happening is there's a lot of people in the locker room that are rooting for Master Wato to be successful. And I think putting him in there with Okada, hopefully you see another match close to the style that you got with El Desperado, where maybe they build up to Wato having at least some semblance of a chance to win the match, but ultimately it's going to be a pretty clear victory there. But yeah, Korakuen Hall, hopefully kind of a hotter Korakuen Hall crowd. People seem to turn up for the tournament matches that happen in Korakuen, so I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah. And when you said the 4:30 a.m. Eastern time, it made me greatly look forward to this time next week when I get to sleep an extra hour because the United States will change its clocks, or most of the United States changes its clocks, and Japan doesn't, which means I get an extra hour's sleep, even though in theory I'm losing an extra hour of sleep in the normal world. So because my Korakuens will start at 4:30 my time instead of 3:30, which the difference between 3:30 and 4:30 is massive.
It's a big difference.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah. We always need to live the Kota Ibushi life and get that, like, what was that, the
25-hour days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this should be all right show. I mean, I expect Goto to obviously easily beat Dick Togo. I think we're in agreement that Shima's probably going to end up beating Kanemaru here and go a little bit further in the tournament. And then Kimachi and Okada's probably going to beat Wato. But I do feel this is a very important match for Wato. Being in there with Okada, this is a match where you kind of like you were saying, like he can pull something like Despy did, I think that the Okada Dusty match that really helped Despy in his raise his stock and just kind of show what he can do in a big main event situation. And there's been so much criticism on Wacho. I think he could, shut some doubters up here, especially with his, comments talking about him being as good as Kiyomiya over in Noah. And so if he really wants to prove that, I think having a great matchup here with Okada could help kind of shut some doubters up on him.
Yeah, I think he needs it. And I think it is a big test for him. So looking forward to it.
Then for night 5, that'll be Thursday, March 10th, again with a 4:30 a.m. Eastern start time. We'll have 6 or 9 teaming up with Hanma to take on Doki, Tai Chi, and Zack Sabre Jr. of Stukyun. We'll have the Chaos team of Goto, Okada, and Yo taking on the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Evil, and Sho. Then we'll have the LIJ team of Bushy, Sonata, and Shingo taking on the United Empire team of Aaron Hanare, Great Okan, and Will Osprey. And then we have 4 tournament matchups here in the second round. We'll have Yoshi-Hashi versus Kosei Fujita, Gato versus Tetsuya Naito, Satoshi Kojima versus Jeff Cobb, and a main event of Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Bad Luck Fale.
Upset special, Bad Luck Fale, Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah, that's what I had on my bracket. We know the history of Fale and Tanahashi. Fale is a guy who's beaten Tanahashi in New Japan Cups and in G1s and kind of has that experience over, beating Tanahashi. And so it's something that they could easily do. It would make a ton of sense. And like we've talked about, there was no real first round upset, but now as we've kind of narrowed the field and get more into that traditional, like you mentioned, like the real start of the tournament with 32-man bracket here that we now will have with some guys eliminated. This could be your real kind of first round upset here with Fale beating Tanahashi.
Yeah, and I could go either way on what I hope to happen, but I think that there's a chance there. It's worth noting, worth putting out there, so if it's right, we can pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah, I think that's the only real upset that's going to happen here. I think Cobb is going to mow through Kojima, Naito is going to beat Gato, and then Yoshi-Hashi is going to beat Fujita. So kind of pretty, again, very chalk tournament, very kind of predictable. But they
so far.
Yeah, I think Cobb and Kojima should be pretty fun.
Yeah, you would think that Kojima still can go, and he still wants to go, and
right.
And Cobb, I think, has a lot of respect for that generation, and especially Kojima. So I would think that they would put their best foot forward. Plus, it's the semi-main. They put them in the semi-main over a match with Naito.
Right.
So I think that's notable, at least.
Yeah. So then night 6 will be on Saturday, March 12th. Got a 3 a.m. Eastern start time here on Saturday.
Ugh, the worst. The 2 a.m. start for me in Central Time it's so confusing because I'm like, do I bother sleeping or do I just get up at 2? Like, nothing makes any sense.
Yeah.
Those are tough. That one's in Aichi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this show will open up. We have Fujita, Hanma, and Yuto Nakashima taking on 6 or 9 and Oiwa. Then we have Tanahashi, Tiger Mask, and Yo versus the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, and Gato. Then we'll have Chaos team of Goto, Okada, and Yoshi-Hashi versus the House of Torture, Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro. Then we'll have Suzuki-gun, Desperado, Suzuki, Taichi, and Taka versus LIJ, Bushy, Hiromu, Shingo, and Naito. Then 4 more second round tournament matchups. We'll have Zack Sabre Jr. versus Doki, Taiji Ishimori versus Great Okan, ELP versus Will Osprey, and then a main event, the U.S. champ, Sonata, will take on Aaron Hanare of the United Empire.
This is a low-key, has the chance to be the tournament match, or the tournament show of the second round. Like, these 4 matches are all... there's no real shoe-in, I guess. There could be some question of who's going to win some of these matches, I guess. Or at least that some of these guys are going to put up a fight, right? Like, Zack Sabre Jr. Doki should be awesome. Like, that's going to be an awesome match. And then Great Okan, Taiji Ishimori, like, Okan, haven't seen him really go with, like, a high stakes match against a junior. And I think that that's an interesting dynamic in its own way. Ishimori's a really good wrestler, and he's not like a big high flyer. So like he's the right style of junior, I think, to go in there with Great Khan. So I'm expecting that to be really good. Osprey, El Phantasmo, we've already talked about. If they put their best foot forward, they can have the match of the tournament too. Even though it's in the semi-main, right? But like those guys have had really, really awesome matches. And then Sonata Hanare, I think this is a chance for Hanare to step up and say he can go in a singles match, right? And Sonata's looked good lately, so I can't complain about Sonata being in the main event here. And he's the U.S. champ, so he's got something a little extra to fight for in the sense of kind of protecting that championship. So I think we talked at length last week of who beats Sonata, and I think there's a outside chance that this is one of those upsets of the tournament.
Yeah, especially with it in the main event, because you look at ELP and Osprey, especially with the history that they've had in the junior division and in Rev Pro. Osprey, being former world champion, you would think, all right, that should be the main event. But they put the Sonata Hanare match in the main event. Sonata is the U.S. champ, but with that match being in the main event, I feel upset alert, and I do feel like this is a platform to elevate Aaron Hanare. Got the main event of the show. I think he can prove that he can wrestle in a main event and do a main event style, not just be an opener or be stuck in a tag team. And then I think it helps set him up, like we talked about last week, to get that U.S. title match and, again, just do something a little bit more of him. Mm-hmm.
I kind of hope for that, honestly.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then that would continue on the path to getting some of that. That would. If he wins and Osprey wins, they're meeting in the next round.
Yeah.
And that's, I love that. I love when that all comes together, because then I think obviously you see Hanare get knocked out, right? You rarely see the, I guess, subordinate win in a tournament match,
right?
In the sense of an interfaction match. So that's something to keep an eye out for if that's something you're hoping for.
Yeah, you also mentioned the Empire. They win together, they lose together. And on this night, I think we're going to get a sweep here. Okada beat Ishimori.
Okay,
Osprey beats Phantasmo, and Hanare beats Sonata. So we'll have the Empire all winning together here and advancing. And then, like you mentioned, that puts Osprey against Hanare. And then if Osprey beats Hanare and Okada wins his next match, and you got Okada versus Osprey, which is kind of what I was predicting of Osprey having these battles with some of these Empire guys.
Yeah, and I'm here for it. I hope that's part of the story. That would be great fun for everybody.
Yeah, looking.
And I think it's time. Like the United Empire's kind of established itself enough over the last, say, what's it been, year and a half or so?
About that, yeah, something like that.
And they haven't had any matches against each other for no reason at all. And here we are in the New Japan Cup, right? Where Will Ospreay won the New Japan Cup last year. And in theory, I guess, if you're looking at the bracket challenge, Jeff Cobb is the favorite to win the New Japan Cup this year. So definitely something to keep an eye out on. And that I think could be a really cool wrinkle, a more enjoyable wrinkle than like all the Bullet Club shenanigans, in the sense of like interfaction, inter-unit challenges.
Yeah. So night 6 should be
that should be a good show.
Pretty good show, yeah, and definitely could end up being like one of the better tournament nights. So then we move on now to night 7, which will be coming up on Sunday, March 13th, with a 8 a.m. Eastern start time. And
wait, what time?
8. Well, on New Japan World it says 8 a.m. Eastern.
That doesn't make any sense.
And 11 p.m. Pacific time and 7 a.m. GMT.
I don't think that's right. It's 4 o'clock Japan time.
And it's in the Amagasaki Memorial Park Gymnasium.
Hyogo. Wait, let me do my little calculator here. I don't think it's an 8 a.m. start time. What are we doing here? Calculator, Tokyo. Of course, it doesn't work. It's great audio. Never mind. Move on.
Yeah,
I'll come back to it.
Maybe it's either way. It's on Sunday. So show will open up. We'll have Bishamon, Goto, and Yoshi teaming up with Washi to take on Zugun's Tai Chi, Taka, and Zack Sabre Jr. Then Zugun's Doki and Desperado. They'll take on the House of Torture team of Sho and Yujiro. We'll have the Bullet Club team of Fale, ELP, Gato, and Taiji Shimori versus the United Empire, Hanare, Okan, Cobb, and Osprey. The Chaos team of Okada and Yo teaming with Tanahashi to take on Bushy, Sonata, and Tatsuya Naito. And then we'll have the conclusion of the second round here with the last 4 matches. We'll have Tiger Mask versus Chase Owens, Shingo Takagi versus Tangaloa, Tama Tonga versus Evil, and a main event of Minoru Suzuki versus Hiromu Takahashi.
Love that they put that in the main event as they kind of booked through round 2 here, because that'll be an interesting match. I think that's one that we could see go either way in theory, right? Mm-hmm. Though I think Suzuki has some things to do, right? He's got to get on that plane and run another run through America. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for that particular match. And actually, most of that show looks like it should be pretty good too. The Evil Tama Tonga match is curious. It does look like Hiromu is the pick'em favorite in the Hiromu Suzuki match. So that is something. Looks like, let's do the math. 58% of the pick'em participants that had that match, so which is most, to be honest, picked Hiromu to win that match. So it's not a huge favorite, but it's interesting to see a junior like Hiromu as the favorite, as the pick'em favorite over Suzuki.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it kind of helps with Suzuki with a bunch of U.S. dates. If you're plugged in, he has to fly over pretty soon. So I'm sure people that probably weighed into it. But also, I feel like Hiromu has been pushed. We've seen him in G, or was he? He wasn't in G.
He was in the 2020 New Japan Cup.
Yeah, 2020 New Japan Cup,
and he went pretty far.
Yeah, he had some wins over some heavyweights there. He beat Ishii. He beat Hanma. So we've seen Hiromu kind of reach that edge of getting ready to maybe go to never stuff, do some heavyweight stuff. So it's not out of the question here for Hiromu to get a win over Suzuki. Like you mentioned, this is like the real first round. And so this would be like that first round upset of having Hiromu beat Suzuki. And, Hiromu's kind of been out of the junior title picture. He lost to Despy at Wrestle Kingdom, and they really haven't done anything with him. He hasn't even challenged for like a junior tag title recently. So he's kind of been in limbo and is kind of out of the mix. And so I think this is a way you kind of heat him up and get him in the mix and doing something with some heavyweights, which then could potentially lead to a open weight title match. I mean, Evil is the current never open weight champ. Evil's best double title defense, in my opinion, for match quality was Hiromu. So you could have build us up so you can get Hiromu versus Evil for a never title match down the line, and potentially even have Hiromu be the one to beat Evil. That could be interesting. But yeah, I think you have to do something new with Hiromu besides him just kind of being the face of the junior division and dominating these guys. Yeah, and I think now's the time, right? And I think now's the time to make him into a real full-blown main eventer for New Japan. And I think he's got the charisma to do it. It's just a matter of if they're willing to do it with someone of his stature. Because as we talked about earlier, Hiromu's a short guy. But I mean, is he any shorter than Shingo? Yeah, that's a good question. I'd have to look at a picture or a video of them together. I get Shingo's a little bit more. Shingo's way more like big and barrel chested. Right. So Hiromu has had there's been some times in his career where he looks like beefed up though. Mm-hmm. So he's got it in him. So yeah, and I think Hiromu's path forward is interesting too. We can all hope for
Hiromu to buzz through Suzuki and then beat, say, Evil or Tamatonga, whoever moves through, and get to Hiromu Shingo, because that's a match that I think everyone would want to see.
Yeah. So again, this could be a pretty good night as well. And there's also, I think, another upset alert with Tamatonga and Evil, with so much focus on what's happening with Tama and Jay White. I think you could have Tamatonga beat Evil, which again might cause some issues with Bullet Club and How to Torture, and get Tama going a little bit further in this tournament. And who knows, maybe you have Jay tells somebody to screw Tama eventually, or even in this match, and does Evil, like I mentioned earlier, try to play it straight with Tama and try to wrestle clean, or is it going to be similar to what we saw in G1 last year, where Evil's pulling out all the shenanigans and doesn't care and just trying to beat Tama at any cost?
Yeah, I think that's a match that will set something up for the future. I don't know what, but that is... Again, and you're right, an upset special, because Tamatonga beat freaking Okada in the G1, right? Like, this is a dude that is meaningful in New Japan, right? Like, even as a single, he had a good kind of beginning of a good run there in the G1. So yeah, I don't think that's out of the question at all. And then that really would start some there would be some smoke to some flames with the Bullet Club battles.
Yeah. Then speaking of Chase to beat Tiger Mask, and then pretty sure Shingo beat Tangaloa. Like you mentioned, it could potentially be, but I mean, again, Shingo's on a different level. Maybe if this was never Shingo, Tangaloa can pull an upset and you get a never title match. But this is, former world champion, former main eventer Shingo. I don't think he should be eating any losses to Tangaloa.
Yeah, unless they really want to get to an all Bullet Club round 3.
True, yeah.
In this little quadrant. So, because they're, in theory, you could go Tangaloa, Chase Owens, either Evil or Tamatonga, and then, well, I guess it wouldn't be all Bullet Club, because you've got Hiromu and Suzuki at the bottom of this, but mostly Bullet Club with 3 out of 4. But I don't think they want to go that heavy into it. That would be a lot.
Yeah.
That would be what? That's probably one night. That would just be all Bullet Club versus Bullet Club, and that's
we don't need any of that.
Yeah, I could throw it in on night 12 of the New Japan Cup, I guess, but that's not what anyone's looking for.
Then we'll have night 8 on Monday, March 14th, and night 9 on Tuesday, March 15th, and this would be the start of the 3rd round.
Yeah, so we've got a stretch here where we've got something like, what is it, like 6 shows in 8 days or something like that?
Yeah.
So this is the hall of the New Japan Cup where there's kind of always going to be something new to watch. But what is nice is that you've got, 4 tournament matches on most of these shows. So if you really wanted to, and I know many people do, you can buzz to the tournament matches and probably get through them in an hour and 15 minutes or so, maybe, depending on the length of the main event. And that's palatable, I think. I don't think that that's overdoing it by any means. So, if you're just trying to keep up with the tournament and keep your bracket full, you can do so for less than the cost of an hour of Raw, because at least it'll be enjoyable.
Yeah. We had a question here from iShant1995. Says, looking at the brackets, what potential matchups have you guys most excited down the tournament?
I think the one that I'm hoping for, but I think is probably kind of unlikely, is Shingo versus Hiromu, because I think that'd be amazing. And that would happen in the, what would that be? The quarterfinals. So keep an eye on the quarters. There's a chance that we get Zack Saber Jr. versus Will Osprey also in the quarters. So that's definitely something worth looking out for, considering how great those guys have been before. In round 3 specifically, we could get Tanahashi versus Naito, and those dudes together are just to die for. Those guys have an underrated series of matches, I think, which is something to say, but it's another one of those classic series with Naito, involved. So, and he's a great wrestler. People forget that sometimes, but he's about as good as it gets too. So, besides that, I'm keeping an eye out, and I really, really want Shima versus Okada, because I think there would be some serious intrigue of whether Shima gets the Marufuji treatment. So, yeah, those are kind of the ones I'm keeping my eye out for.
Yeah, mine's very similar to you. A lot of those I would want to see. Also, there's some potential down the line of maybe a Shingo versus Osprey in the semi-finals. I would love to see those guys tangle up again. If you have Okada and Cobb get to the semifinals, I think that could be another. They've been having some great matches in their series. That could be another fun one. And yeah, you mentioned a lot of ones. Shingo Hiromu, though, is that the one for sure. I'm like, that needs to happen. Like, just do it. Like, you want to get back your Booker of the Year award. That'll be a good first move there.
Just do it. Yeah. Just take it. It'll be fine. Yeah.
So, Chris, do you want to give us a update on the contest, on the tournament? Who's leading the leaderboard here? What's the stats looking like, the scoreboard going into getting ready to go into the end of the second round here?
Yeah, let me organize it here. So here's what I got. So I have, 13 people still with perfect brackets, and that is Pro Wrestling Transcripts, David Dunn, Drew Money, A. Clark, Berto C., Mifhorgan, Yannick, Dake 75, Hayden, who actually I believe was the we'll call him the winner of last year's New Japan Cup bracket challenge, because I absolved myself of my victory. We have the young boy at 32 points still, so he's still in there. And then that guy 098, King Crab Maroon, and also 50, also keeping new in my name.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the top competitors here. All tied for first.
I'm not up there with the. I thought I got.
I think I see. No, that's Jeremy Finestone, my other pal. Let's see. Did you pick the bye to win?
I don't think I did. I thought I
don't know.
Picked everything correctly.
I'm looking for you. There's a lot at 31.
Okay.
There's a lot at 31. So that's probably, I would imagine that's where you sit. I guess I could search for you.
Yeah, but I'm wondering. I'm pretty sure
You have 31 points, which means you got something wrong.
What did I pick? Maybe I pick a ball.
Oh, here's what happened. You picked Tenzan, and the bye won.
Ah.
That's funny, because I was making fun of people who picked the bye to win. Not that particular one. There was a different bye that people picked to win.
Yeah, people were picking the bye over Doki, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so you picked Tenzan. So in other words, you did your bracket in a reasonable amount of time, and then somebody like the young boy didn't. So they did their bracket much a touch later, which means they had the inside info. So that's life, man.
The one time being ahead doesn't pay off.
Doesn't pay off. Yeah. Hey, that sucks for all, and that's why there's so many people at 31. 31 points. There's a lot. So yeah, it's been mostly chalk. I think we'll start to see some separation here, but yeah, hey, that's life. What do you do? I can't even find myself. Oh, I didn't enter one because I was so embarrassed that I won last year.
Well, why? I don't get why you're embarrassed, man. You got the great picks. You run with it, man.
Everyone thinks everyone thinks I already like shadow booked New Japan with Gato. So it just established more of those rumors. I'm just kidding. No one actually thinks that.
I will say, if anybody knows you, I don't think you'd be, approving Gato having all these House of Torture crazy run-ins.
Yeah, no. Certainly the sport of pro wrestling would not support this.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
No, but yeah, so that's the update. So mostly good. Actually, let's have some fun. Let's find the bottom.
Yeah.
See who did the worst. Let's see. Scroll all the way to the last page here. Organized by points. last page. Let's see who really just had no idea what was going on. Actually, there's a ton at 30 too. And then a bunch at 29. So pretty much everyone had a good first round. Nobody's out of it. Let's see. Carl C here only has 18 points. Let's see what Carl C picked. Well, he picked the bye to beat Master Wato. So shame for him. Picked the bye to beat Dick Togo. I feel like this person was confused about what the bye meant. But that's okay. There's plenty of time to catch up. There's plenty of points on the board still. We exponentially grow the points as the tournament goes on here. As round 2 is worth 2 points a match, round 3 is worth 4, round 4 the quarters is worth 8 points, the semis are worth 16, and if you get the winner you get 32. So there's plenty of points to be had towards the tail end of the tournament, so nobody's out of it yet.
Nice. So looking forward to seeing those contest rankings, how that's going to shake up, especially we talked about there's going to be some upset alerts to see if those upsets help people or hurt people's chances in getting further in the contest.
Heck yeah.
Let's jump over to New Japan of America for a little bit here. We had night 1 of the Rivals Tour that kicked off this past Saturday. Show opened up. We had TJP representing the United Empire defeating Brogan Finley, younger brother of David Finley, 9 minutes and 6 seconds. Thought this was a pretty good match here. I thought Brogan looked pretty good, and TJP is just so smooth, and ultimately he got the win. This all led to an angle of the former Grand Metalik, Mascara Dorada, showing up to challenge TJP because TJP said that he is the greatest junior heavyweight wrestler in the world, and he plans on winning the IWGP Junior title this year, which brought out Mascara Dorada to face off and had a little scuffle there. And this is the rematch of the finals of the 2016 WWE Cruiserweight Classic. So good on New Japan for playing back on that callback there. And that's happening here in Tampa for Strong Style Evolved. So what do you think about that angle, that opening there?
I mean, I love to see fresh blood anywhere in New Japan, right? And I think, gosh, if they can get some people into the country for Best of the Super Juniors whenever they decide to do it this year, that could be a banger of a tournament with all the guys that they've started to work with. So, but yeah, TJP, an underrated hand, maybe underrated, I don't know. He's a guy that most people don't want to talk to terribly much about, and he's a guy who's been around a lot for a long time, but man, he's good. He's good in the ring, and he's got a good character now, and I think the heel thing works really well for him. And yeah, he's good stuff. I think I would love to see him have a run through Best of the Super Juniors. And honestly, like, they gotta freshen up the junior division so much, and a lot of these guys that they've recruited and used in New Japan USA, including Mascara Dorada, like, those guys could all just give so much life, right? And like, there's so many other guys, and I know we've talked about it on the show before, but yeah, this is good. It's good to see TJP still kind of establishing the worldwide United Empire faction too.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I do think TJP is a guy who's so underrated. I mean, he's a guy who started as a teenager, and he's been literally all over the world and in all the major promotions. And yeah, I get people might not like what he tweets or, what he maybe believes or stands for sometimes. But when you just look at the bell-to-bell in-ring, it's hard to deny, much like some of the other people in his group, that he is a great pro wrestler.
Yep.
So then we move on to the second match. We had the return of the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, making his second strong appearance after entering the US of J Open Challenge, and he defeated the Alpha Wolf Carl Fredericks here, 11 minutes and 40 seconds. And originally this was supposed to be Daniels versus Gabe Kidd. Gabe Kidd, obviously, we talked about last week, being pulled, going back to the UK to take care of himself, take care of his mental health. So Alpha Wolf stepping in here, and kind of a upset surprise in a way. The Fallen Angel picks up the win here with the best moonsault ever.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Carl Fredericks eat the loss here, but we haven't seen a lot from Carl Fredericks, and I know that that's come up in certain circles and certain conversations about like what's going on. Like, this was a guy that everyone had pinned as, the ace of that class. And here he is losing to Christopher Daniels. And I get, like, Christopher Daniels is an important guy in the, I guess, history of U.S. pro wrestling, but I don't know that weight carries over to New Japan of America. I guess it does, right? Because, a guy like Frederick still takes a loss to him. So, good match. But I was surprised by the result, because usually this is the opportunity to continue establishing some of these New Japan USA guys.
Yeah, I think definitely you could have used Fredericks to get a big win. It's like get a big deal being this legend in Daniels, but it does seem like maybe Daniels is going to be doing more strong in the future, and so you may want to establish him. Maybe you get a Daniels title match down the line against Filthy Tom or whoever strong champion might be in the future. And I do think Daniels is a good guy to have on the strong roster. He's a recognizable name. And again, to wrestle guys like Frederick, some of the younger guys that are coming up, he has so much experience. It can really help some of these guys out. Then we go to the main event here, a rematch from the previous tour. We had Bad Dude Tito and Jonah getting their win back and defeating the Finjuice team of David Finlay and Juice Robinson. Pretty good matchup here. And we had another angle alert here. We had the former Shane Hayes, making his strong debut, return to New Japan to help his TMDK stablemate Jonah and Bad Dude Tito get the win here. So Shane Hayes is now back in New Japan, part of Strong, and has aligned himself with Jonah and Bad Dude Tito, and those guys get the win over Finjuice. Post-match, they're beating down Finlay and Juice. Brogan Finlay tries to run out to save his brother. He gets beaten down. They make David Finlay watch his younger brother get beat up. Jonah gives him the big top rope splash off the top rope there, and it seems like this feud is going to continue between the Finlays and Juice and TMDK.
I love that New Japan of America has become this place where kind of international angles come together. And Jonah has been great in these New Japan of America shows. So I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. He's another one of those guys that I'm sure that they want to get into New Japan domestic product too. And again, like all New Japan Strong is, or a lot of what New Japan Strong is, and a lot of the role I think in the company as a whole is to establish relationships and to start to build guys up a little bit before they can bring them in. So, and I think we're closer and closer and closer to those being brought in, which is why I think we're starting to see more angles because they'll be able to pay them off in either in a bigger way on Strong or bringing people to the US to see how things get over, or bringing people to Japan to see how things get over.
Yeah. And out of these guys, I mean, I think Jonah is kind of probably one of the guys they bring in, but Bad Dude Tito, man, I have been falling in love with this guy. He's like it's a
great name. Yeah,
he's a long lost Steiner brother. People are all up in arms about Braun Breaker and him. I'm like, man, I'm in on Bad Dude Tito. This guy, he's got the look, he's got the singlet, he's got the cool suplexes, the crazy athleticism for a guy his size. Like, I don't know where this guy's been. I know he's done some blood sport stuff, but I don't get why he hasn't been picked up anywhere or given more shot, because he's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's in that same range as like JR Kratos, right? Where it's like, where did this dude come from?
Yeah. So that was night one of Rivals. We'll have night two this coming up Saturday. We'll have the main event of the US of J Open Challenge, and I think pretty much at this point, people probably should all know who his opponent is. But if you don't know, I won't spoil it for you. I'll let you be surprised. Then we also have Kevin Blackwood making his strong debut, taking on Arya Davari. And then the opener will be Hekaleo taking on Kevin Knight. So should be another solid hour of New Japan Strong. Then we'll run through some news items here. So this continuing in the Strong world, New Japan Strong will be returning to Philadelphia. The company's announced the Strong Collision tour in Philadelphia Sunday, May 15th at the 2300 Arena. Obviously, the ECW Arena tickets will go on sale Friday, March 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Tickets are ranging from $20 for general admission up to $120 for ringside. We have no matches announced, but we do have some talent advertised for the show. Will Osprey, Jeff Cobb, Jay White, Filthy Tom Lawler, Fred Rosser, Chris Dickinson, Dave Finley, Juice Robinson, Hikuleo, Ren Narita, Rocky Romero, Yuya Mora, Clark Connors, and Carl Fredericks. Then we have some more stuff announced for New Japan Strong Style Evolved happening here in St. Petersburg / Tampa, Florida. So we'll have the US of J Open Challenge, Jay White versus vacant to be determined. We'll have Swerve, the newest AEW signee, taking on Blake Christian. We'll have Jay Lethal taking on Ren Narita. Mascard Arata taking on TJP. We'll have the strong openweight title match of Filthy Tom Lawler defending against the Wild Rhino Clark Connors. We'll have Eddie Kingston returning to New Japan Strong, and he'll be teaming up with Daniel Garcia to take on Fred Rosser and Fred. Yeah, actually, I think they got this. I think they ended up switching this. I think it's going to be Kingston and Rosser against Yehai and Garcia.
To keep the AEW canon alive.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense.
Then also Rocky Romero will be taking on Wheeler Utah. Actually, Rocky Romero and Wheeler Utah, will be teaming up together to take on JR Kratos and Black Tiger. So again, keeping that AEW canon with Utah being a part of the best friends. So Rocky and Utah taking on Team Filthy, Kratos, and Black Tiger, continuing that Rocky Black Tiger story. And then House of Black's Buddy Matthews will be taking on Yuya Uemura. So curious to kind of see how if he's going to be in the all black gear, and because I know for the last Brody match, they did announce him as a part of the House of Black. So I'm wondering again, kind of keeping that AEW continuity, how that's all going to play out with some of these AEW guys here.
Did you see that they announced 4 more matches?
I did not, because for some reason my Google's not working on my phone right now. I was trying to.
I'm sure you know every Tuesday you get strong match announcements during your show. I'll fire them off here.
Yeah, go for it.
So we've got the last 4 matches announced for that show. You got, let's see, I'll start at the bottom. Andy Brown versus Hikuleo, John Schuyler versus Big Damo, Carl Fredericks versus Josh Alexander. Oh, there you go. And then Juice Robinson and David Finlay against Jonah and Shane Haste.
So no bad dude Tito for us here.
No bad dude Tito. Yeah, bummer for you. But Fredericks, Josh Alexander, that should be freaking great.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff should be good. Juice and Finlay against Jonah and Shane Haste, obviously continuing on that storyline, so that's awesome. So yeah, a lot of good stuff on that Tampa show. These strong shows are good. Yeah,
it's funny. I've been trying to get all social books guys in on Strong, and a lot of people are down New Japan, and Strong. That's another hour on top of all of the amount of wrestling we already watch, and we're in the house, and I made these guys watch this past week Strong, and James Boyd, he's like, you know what, I'm in. Like this was a fun, easy watch. He's like, I'm in. I'm like, dude, that wasn't even like one of the best Strong. This was like an okay. It was good, but it was like an okay Strong. We didn't have like any like Kingston Kids or Osprey or any like stuff like that. So just wait till you get to like the conclusion of the tour where you get some of the bigger matchups. So if you guys are not watching Strong, it's an easy 1 hour show. You look at these lineups that are happening. There's bangers every week.
Listen, this Tampa show looks good.
Yeah.
Tom Lawler versus Clark Connors, awesome, strong storyline, stuff going on there. Connors could be a guy that could hold that Strong championship because he's been a Strong original, I guess, if you want to call him. That would be cool. I think it'll be a good match. I don't think it's quite time to take it off of Lawler. But then Buddy Matthews versus Yuya Uemura, that's just a match that speaks to my soul. Like, I'm sure everyone understands my love of Yuya Uemura, Jeremy the most, because the enjoyment that we got in LA when he got that pin. But Buddy Matthews against Yuya, God, put it in my veins. I hope they go, 20-minute time limit. So they're going to have to go quick, but I hope they get 12 minutes and it's awesome. That's a match that I'm definitely going to key in for.
Yeah, there's just so many great matches, a lot of interesting stuff. Like, I'm interested to see how Swerve, and also he's now signed with AEW, and kind of how he's gonna fit into Strong potentially in the future. And he's facing up against Blake Christian, a guy who used to be on Strong before he had his cup of coffee in NXT. So are both those guys going to be around? Jay Lethal, another guy who's brought in from the Jay White Challenge, and he's facing Narita. And Jay Lethal here, big in Tampa. He has a wrestling school here, the Wrestling Lab. So I'm sure he's going to be super over in the show here. But that's going to be, again, a fun matchup for Narita. And we've seen Narita beat some veterans and have some upsets. So, I mean, beating Lethal would be a pretty big deal. Having Kingston back, I mean, that Gabe Kidd match was so awesome. And I know Kingston really wants to be a part of New Japan. So, again, kind of bring him back in the fold and maybe starting something with him here. With these guys here could be something interesting. We got the Rocky Black Tiger storyline continuing. Like, there's just so much great stuff happening here.
A fresh, easy, breezy hour of wrestling. If you're still one of those perverts that's watching AEW Dark, turn it off and go watch NJPW Strong, something that has some meaning to it. So yeah. Not to trash Dark. There's some good stuff. It's fun. It's whatever. But man, if you're looking for an easy hour of wrestling to watch, that's the one, if you're asking me.
Yeah. Do you think Clark's gonna take the strap here?
I think he's the most likely candidate of people that have faced Lawler. Yeah. Just because his story arc has been booked so strong, no pun intended, on the program. And he's been a really important part of the program. So if they're gonna put it on one of their like inside guys, it feels like he's the guy.
Yeah. The only thing,
and then he flies over with the strap and participates in Best of Super Juniors.
That would be great.
Which I have started to think is gonna actually happen in May this year. We're gonna get back on like the traditional calendar.
That would be great. Yeah. The only thing that's preventing me from maybe thinking Clark would win is WrestleMania weekend, the Lone Star Shootout. It's right around the corner. Like, you would think maybe you do the big title change, especially because the Lone Star Shootout, not only is it being taped for Strong, they're going to do a live Fight TV presentation where you can watch the whole show in one go live. So I think that might be the better stage to do it. But I just don't know who he would defend against, because you have Ishii facing Dickinson, Jay White's facing Speedball Mike Bailey. He's already beaten Fredericks. At this point, he would have beaten Connors. Maybe Coughlin? I don't know.
Coughlin, whenever he comes back. That's probably a little ways off, though.
Yeah.
I guess Coughlin's technically on like a worldwide excursion, it seems like.
Yeah,
like that's kind of what he's up to.
Over in Rev Pro.
That would be a good play, because Coughlin got over as a young lion. But yeah, that title's more interesting than people give it credit for too, because there's so many different directions you can go, especially in the US with the open weight kind of designation.
Yeah. So it'll be fun stuff. In other news, Hiromu Takahashi will be participating in the Positive Learning Through AIDS Orphan Support Charity Auction next week. Hiromu will be contributing an item to be auctioned off between March 14th and 20th, with proceeds assisting children orphaned as a result of AIDS in Uganda and Kenya. To find out more about the PLAS or make a donation, you can look at their website. The link is on the NJPW1972.com website. And then the Funky Weapon Ryusuke Taguchi is holding a meet and greet online. So you can join that, purchase signed goods, and you can ask him questions. So you join the New Japan YouTube on March 22nd. So we've been seeing several of these meet and greets. Last one was with Filthy Tom. So now, one half of the Junior Tag Champ, 6 or 9. You can ask him all the 6 or 9 questions you want.
I have so many questions for Ryusuke Taguchi. Might have to get in on that.
I just said, why are the way you are?
That's it. Yeah.
That's
the question.
You could ask him what happened to Mask Horse. There's a lot of great stuff to ask Taguchi about.
There is. He has a deep. There's a lot of deep lore with the Taguchi.
Yeah. So we just have a couple of other questions here, and then we'll run through recommended match of the week and get out of here. So, question from Les Commission 7252. First, he says, I already watched a spot from G1 Climax 28 where Michael Elgin claimed that Tama Tonga was unsafe for the chair shots. I disagree, but what is y'all's opinion on that spot? Do you even remember that spot?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I also watched the Michael Elgin YouTube posts a couple months ago, and I remember him talking about that. And I don't recall thinking they were unsafe at the time. I guess if you went and looked back at them, I'm sure you could find something unsafe about it. But it is also pro wrestling, and with chairs, things are there are things that are unsafe. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't in the ring, so I couldn't speak to that. And I think most of these guys are really good at making things that don't hurt look like they hurt. So
exactly.
That, like, I can never say someone who's a professional at faking people out that they're hurt is faking it or not faking it. So unless it's a situation where like your leg breaks in half and it's pretty obvious of what's happening. Like, so I don't have an opinion on that. And I'm not gonna
honestly,
open myself up to that.
I barely remember the spot, to be honest. I mean, it's Michael Elgin. He says and does a lot of dumb stuff. So who knows if what he was saying is true anyway. So, second question is, can you guys rank Jay White's greatest rival so far in his career between Tanahashi, Okada, and Kota Ibushi?
Oh, are those the only three options?
Well, that's what he listed, but I mean, feel free to take liberty and
I think the last option is Jay White versus getting a green card. I've enjoyed the Ibushi rivalry the most of the Jay White rivalries.
For me, I think the most important rivalry to his career has been the Okada rivalry. Because totally. That's where he ended up having the Madison Square Garden match, and they've had some big matches, and the whole him leaving Chaos to join Bullet Club could really kind of get him to where he's at right now. Beating him at Wrestle Kingdom in that quick fashion, 14 minutes or whatever, 15 minutes, whatever it was. So I feel like the Okada rivalry has been the most important to his career. I think maybe the Ibushi rivalry, like you said, that probably produces the best matches out of his rivals. They were the highest.
Well, yeah, I was going to say they're the highest stakes matches. I guess they were because the title match against, I don't know, Madison Square Garden versus Tokyo Dome, right? Like,
right.
I don't know. That's pretty equal, probably, if you really look at it. So, yeah, that's tough.
And then the Tanahashi matches are I don't know, because the first match was not great, and I feel like all their matches have just not. There's always been something kind of off with their matches. I don't know why. Like even the match where he won the title from Tanahashi wasn't the greatest matchup, and I don't know if it's the chemistry or what it is, the style they wrestle, but their matches and their overall rivalry, I feel like has not been as important to Jay White's career.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Tanahashi tap out, all that stuff. So
yeah,
but yeah, like I said, my choice is the Ibushi rivalry because I liked the G1 final, and it was a G1 final, which is huge. And then the Ibushi Jay White Tokyo Dome match, that really, really long match, was my match of the year. So I thought they drew back on so much of their history. Like that was one of those quintessential New Japan matches where they do a bunch of callbacks that that are a hat tip to people who are really paying attention. And then the promo after that, the J cut that got people talking about whether he was leaving and all that, like that was such a good promo. I mean, that was masterclass pro wrestling promo after that match too. And it came out of that match with the Bushy, right? So yeah, for me, that's his most well-rounded rivalry. And it brings out the best in Ibushi, too. And I don't think Jay White has brought out the best in Tanahashi or Okada, right? But I do think he's elevated Ibushi even, and that's tough to do because he's freaking great. So that's kind of my selling point for that.
Yeah, I think honorable mention could be Tomohiro Ishii.
Sure.
I feel like they have a lot of great matchups, and maybe there's not a ton of promos, so to say, back and forth, or
Ishii doesn't talk. So.
Right, or like long-term storylines. But I feel like whenever they do wrestle, there's usually high stakes, and it usually ends up being a pretty great match.
Well, yeah, and when Ishii knocked Jay White out of the G1 in that main event, that was so awesome. Yeah. So that was cool too. So yeah, that's a great honorable mention.
So move on to No Alarms 1995. And first he asks, what's the realistic possibility of a junior winning the New Japan Cup outright?
0.
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry.
Second question, with Ibushi sideline, when would be the next opening or program for him to return, and how will he be utilized?
What do you think about this one?
So I think a couple of different things. There is the whole route of going Okada winning the whole tournament, and then it's like, all right, who challenges? And if Ibushi's ready, you can have him come out and challenge Okada, or maybe Okada calls him out or whatever. I think that's a possibility. If not that, then I would guess maybe the next opening, maybe you do set something up for Dominion. Because, I mean, you have an April show, you have Secure Genesis, you have Don Taku, which, I mean, you could bring him back for those, and then potentially Super Juniors in May. And then the next big show would be Dominion, so you could hold off if you don't need him for Don Taku or Secure Genesis, hold off, and then maybe Okada's still a champion at that time, and you do the Okada-Ibushi match on Dominion.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, what we're going to see is Ibushi is going to walk out after a title match and become the next challenger. Like, because Okada's already said that I don't even know if he phrased it like he owes him a title shot, but he wants Ibushi.
But he did kind of change his tone, though. Before Ibushi was pulled from the New Japan Cup, he was like, yeah, I feel like Ibushi needs to kind of earn it.
Sure.
So I can keep my promise. So it's kind of like he wants Ibushi to
Yeah, but I kind of felt like that was just Okada trying to set up people to hope for an Ibushi win of the tournament.
Okay.
I felt like that was connected to him actually participating in the tournament. And now that he's not in the tournament, I think the tone will change again, because I truly think the play is Okada defends against whoever, right? Mm-hmm. At one of these matches, and then the next match is Ibushi, right? Like, and it could be at any of those three, right? They could definitely headline Dominion with that. Like, that's a huge match. It's a great match. But why not just have Ibushi come out and say like, hey, I'm ready, and I'm ready, and I'm back, and let's go. And Okada has already stated that that's something he's interested in. So I think Ibushi's going to get a title challenge against Okada. And I think that the Okada reign won't end until that happens. I don't think Ibushi is necessarily the guy that takes it off of him, but you can't rule it out. So,
right. I mean, that would be pretty poetic if Ibushi comes back and, beats the guy that he got injured with in the G1, and like, it's a big what if. Like, what if he didn't get hurt? Like, could he have beaten?
Could he have won the G1?
Right.
Yeah. This, that, and the other thing. Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of questions there. So yeah, and it could be at any. I think they're probably hoping for it to be pre G1, because they've got really the three big shows before the G1. I don't think there would be something else, right? Am I missing something? If the G1's in its normal slot in July, then there's not something else.
Right. I mean, Dominion would be probably the biggest thing, and then usually they might do some kind of summer struggle thing, maybe the first couple weeks of July, and then do G1. So
right. Yeah, you'd have some sort of build-up tour. Mm-hmm. God, what is that tour usually called? When they announce all the G1 participants at Korakuen. God, I'm blanking.
Yeah, I'm blanking too, because Destruction's usually after G1.
Right. And all they're using all maybe
is it like New Japan Road?
Well, New Japan Road's like their generic, like we don't have a tour name,
right?
that they roll with. But yeah, I don't know why I can't remember. It'll come to me after the show.
Yeah,
I'm sure. but yeah, so there's there's 3 big shows, right? And I think you're going to see, here's my hope. I hope you see Okada defend against whoever knocks him out of the tournament, right? And then but before that, whoever wins the tournament, which could be any number of guys, then whoever knocked him out of the tournament, which I hope is Shima, personally, because I just think that'd be cool, and it opens things up and freshens things up a little bit. And then I think you see Ibushi if he's healthy, and then you're in G1 season, and then things kind of reset.
Yeah. So I think definitely the program has to be him for Okada. I don't think there's much else you can really do outside.
If Okada loses the belt before he defends it against Ibushi's dead.
Yeah.
Like not dead, but like it's a real bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to take us to recommended match of the week. So last week you recommended for us to watch Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tanahashi from the New Japan Cup 2018. Did you rewatch this matchup?
Yeah. And that match is still awesome, and it was still kind of surprising when Zack won. I mean, like obviously I knew the result, but that New Japan Cup run with Zack was so awesome, and then the Tanahashi story, those two together, this was kind of the beginning of that story, right? Or like really the establishment that Zack's a player, right, in the game. So I enjoyed it again. I think they still have fantastic chemistry. They did kind of burn out the match as they went through the next couple of years, but love this tournament final. I love every tournament final in New Japan. That seems to be something that still remains relatively protected.
Yeah, this was just a great matchup. Like you mentioned, still holds up. And, we mentioned like Jay and Tanahashi not having the best chemistry, but I think, on the flip side, Saber and Tanahashi have great chemistry and always have great matchups. And I think Tanahashi is like the perfect target for Zack because, he has the injured bicep. He has the knee.
Right.
Sometimes he has a bad back. And so Saber, being the submission specialist he is, can pick whatever target he wants that day. And in this match, I know he focused a lot on the knees and legs of Tanahashi to set up his various submission holds. And it's always fun when these guys wrestle, and love to see it again soon.
This was also kind of the beginning of Tanahashi's great 2018 run, which was a hell of a run.
Right.
I mean, like all of a sudden you had kind of vintage Tanahashi, and this was potentially the kind of what inspired that is losing this match.
Right. Yeah, that gave us the G1 finals. We got him going to the Wrestle Kingdom and winning the title
in that match, which was a hell of a match. Yeah, I mean this, and I don't know, maybe that was Tanahashi's last really truly incredible run.
Yeah,
but I don't know. He seems like a guy who's ageless and he can tap into it. But yeah, 2018 was a really cool year to be keeping an eye on Tanahashi.
So for the recommended match this week, we joked about it last week. Let's go ahead and watch it. Naito versus Bushy from the 2018 New Japan Cup, the famous head drop match.
One of many famous head drop matches between those two.
Yeah.
Hey, that's my favorite rivalry. I guess going back to talking about rivalries, like that's my favorite New Japan rivalry is Naito Ibushi. So I'll probably go watch that.
Yeah.
I got time.
Yeah, it's always a fun watch.
Who knows? I might be on the show again next week.
Hey, you never know. And so it'll be a fun to watch. I mean, there's going to be like we said, like 6 or 8, how many New Japan Cup shows. So there'll be a lot to watch, but this will be fun to kind of throw in between all that stuff.
Nice, good choice.
So that's going to wrap things up. Chris, thank you so much for filling in for the young boy this week. Tell our listeners where they can find you online and anything you got going on.
Yeah, I am the Chris Samsa on Twitter, so that's TheChrisSamsa. I am running I guess we'll call it the official New Japan Cup English language bracket challenge over at sportiveprowrestling.com. Unfortunately, if you're not entered, you can't enter because that's how bracket challenges work. But if you have entered, you can check your standings at sportiveprowrestling.com. And outside of the pro wrestling sphere, I used to be in a rock and roll band called Plunkett. That's kind of what I like to call my previous life. And we just posted our 2007 album that we made out in Los Angeles. We just posted that on Spotify. So this is my chance to plug that to my pro wrestling fam. So look up Plunkett, that's Plunkett, and you'll find a pretty good pop punk record.
And you got a concert coming up, right?
We're I guess we're kind of back. We're just doing some stuff right around the house or right around home here. But yeah, we're doing a show at the end of March, and we'll see kind of where it goes. But yeah, I'm tapping back into the musical brain that's still up in my head. So I'm kind of excited for it. But worth checking out the album. There's some good jams on there. I can go back and listen to it a little bit with a little bit less bias now, and it still holds up. So it's worth a listen.
Nice.
So I'll make like 6 cents if someone streams it. So, I'll take the 6 cents.
Yeah, I'll give it a play. Rack up those cents for you.
Yeah, give it a spin.
Well, that's going to wrap things up. Next week, we'll be back to review the latest New Japan Cups and preview everything coming up forward with the tournament. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation. Visit socialsuplex.com. Click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, we are at KI Strong Style. I'm at Jeremy L. Donovan. The show, or the network, is at Social Suplex, Facebook.com/Social Suplex, on Instagram, at Social Suplex, on Reddit, on the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com, and check out all of our other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences Podcast, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd and Austin. And the AEW Match Guide Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.